Happy university students celebrate their campus life as cherry blossoms fall around them.
In stark contrast, retake students trudge through the shadows of academic pressure.
Students arrive at the Chumsong Retake Comprehensive Academy under a clear blue sky. A student with a black backpack walks past blooming trees toward the academy.
Juho, a black-haired boy with glasses, stops as someone calls his nickname.
Yo Ji-woo, wearing a pink jacket, greets him cheerfully for arriving early today.
Juho tells her to stop using that nickname, but Jiwoo teases him for growing up.
Juho mentions studying past exams while Jiwoo suggests a bet on who scores higher.
A blushing Juho hesitates as Jiwoo demands the loser buy food for the other. Jiwoo stares intensely with pink pupils while demanding an immediate answer to her wager.
Yo Ji-woo is introduced as a student in the same academy and class.
She is famously beautiful and intelligent, known as an overpowered student throughout the academy.
Juho focuses intensely on his schoolwork while his classmates observe him with curiosity.
A teacher shouts at crowds gathered in the hallway just to see Jiwoo.
On White Day, Jiwoo finds her desk completely buried under mountains of candy gifts.
Rivalry over Jiwoo turns violent as boys brawl while trying to confess their feelings.
The academy maintains strict rules, resulting in the immediate expulsion of all fighting students.
In Juho's mind, Jiwoo appears like a witch ruling over a mountain of skulls.
Juho feels immense pressure and anxiety whenever he is in close proximity to her.
He realizes the danger of getting involved with such a high-profile classmate.
Jiwoo warns him that the more he resists, the worse it will be for him.
Juho asks what she would do if strange rumors started spreading about him and her.
Juho looks closely at her through his glasses and asks if she can handle it.
Jiwoo smiles brightly and confirms that she is perfectly fine with the potential situation.
Juho stares back in total shock, his face turning a deep shade of red.
Juho stammers while trying to clarify that he was specifically referring to dating rumors.
Jiwoo laughs at the suggestion and finds the idea of dating rumors quite amusing.
She tells an anxious Juho that rumors are just rumors and she does not mind. Jiwoo leans in close and asks a pointed question about his feelings toward her.
Looking back with a blush, she asks if the idea of dating her is unflattering.
Juho becomes incredibly flustered and adjusts his glasses to hide his growing embarrassment.
Juho claims to be different from the other boys who fall for her.
Juho remains focused on his results, having outperformed Jiwoo in the April mock exam.
Jiwoo persistently asks for his opinion on her question while leaning over his shoulder. He views her as a malicious witch intent on sabotaging his academic life.
Jiwoo calls his nickname again and asks if he is even listening to her.
She suddenly stops and stares down with a look of quiet, focused realization.
Juho wears a black wristwatch with a severely cracked and shattered glass face.
Jiwoo grabs his arm and asks what is wrong with his obviously broken watch.
She asks why he even bothers to wear something so damaged on his wrist.
Juho aggressively pulls his arm away and warns her not to push him too far.
Juho mentions the strict academy rules and warns they could both face immediate expulsion. He tells her to stop wasting time and focus on her studying instead.
Juho grit his teeth, determined not to squander any more of his time. His singular focus remains on his desperate goal to get into medical school.
A computer screen reveals a rejection notice, causing Juho's hand to tremble in despair.
In the darkness of his room, Juho screams out in pure agony over his failure.
A hand lands on his shoulder as someone calls him by his real name.
A man with white glasses asks if getting into medical school is really that hard.
The man stares through his glasses and claims that Juho is the only one.
Juho's stern family looms over him, signifying the heavy burden of failing their academic expectations.
Desperate and sweating, Juho begs his father for another chance as books crash to the floor.
His father coldly tells him to quit studying while Juho hunches over in absolute despair.
A shattered black watch lies on a desk, representing the moment Juho's personal timeline stopped.
Juho's hand trembles as he adjusts the broken watch, a grim reminder of his past failures.
Under a clear sky, the black-haired boy looks at his cracked watch with deep anxiety. Juho exhales a cold breath, fixated on the watch because every second matters in his situation.
A sudden, sharp cough sounds as Jiwoo in her pink jacket accidentally runs into Juho.
Juho falls to the pavement coughing while angrily demanding to know what she is doing. Jiwoo towers over the fallen boy, who calls her a brat for her reckless behavior.
A large truck speeds past them in the crosswalk, highlighting the danger Juho narrowly avoided.
Juho remains on the ground in total shock, his eyes wide as he processes the near miss. Jiwoo reaches down and firmly bunches up the fabric of Juho's brown sweater with her hand.
She berates him for his lack of awareness, yelling that his distraction almost got him killed.
Juho looks completely stunned by her outburst and offers a small, trembling apology for his mistake. Jiwoo releases her grip on his sweater, sliding her hand away as she calms down slightly.
A heavy silence falls between the two students as they stand together on the city street.
Jiwoo begins to speak again, formulating a theory about Juho's recent strange and distracted behavior.
She correctly identifies herself as a distraction and notes his fear of being expelled for it. Juho adjusts his glasses and quietly confirms that her assessment of his anxiety is entirely accurate.
Jiwoo lets out a small smirk, finding a way to turn his worries into a game.
She dismisses his concerns as nothing and claims she can solve his entire problem immediately.
Juho looks at her with a baffled expression, unable to guess what her solution could be.
Leaning in close, she reminds him that he ranked first while she took second place.
Jiwoo blushes and proposes a bet where Juho must date her if she ever wins.
Juho reacts with an explosive shout, pointing out that dating results in immediate expulsion from school.
Jiwoo counters that he should simply study harder to beat her and avoid the penalty. Laughing cheerfully, Jiwoo claims she is actually providing him with the ultimate motivation to succeed. Juho fumes with embarrassment, calling her logic ridiculous since she would also face immediate expulsion.
With a nonchalant smile, Jiwoo reiterates that she does not care if she gets kicked out.
She leans in further, noting with a sharp look that he is the one who cares.
An oppressive dark energy swirls around Juho as he reels from her overwhelming psychological pressure.
Juho stares back in total shock, his face turning a deep shade of red from stress.
In Juho's imagination, Jiwoo is a terrifying witch whose power looms over his cowering shadow.
Jiwoo smiles with glowing pink eyes and asks if he is currently afraid of her.
Juho grits his teeth and blushes intensely, trying his best to deny her frightening influence.
A pained groan escapes him as the dark, electrified atmosphere of her presence becomes suffocating.
Juho abruptly turns his back on her and begins to walk away to escape her.
Looking back with a flustered expression, he demands to know why he would be scared.
He regains his composure and tells her to bring it on if she feels so confident.
Jiwoo smiles brightly and tells him she will be counting on him to keep his word.
She catches up and asks if she can stick around, which Juho rejects from the shot.
A dark title card presents Yo Jiwoo as a witch within Juho's fearful inner narrative.
She is depicted as a dangerous predator against a dark web, capable of destroying others.
A quick tap sounds as Juho accidentally bumps into another student wearing an orange shirt.
Juho offers an apology, but the other student assures him that the collision is no problem.
Jiwoo clasps her hands together and offers a charming, smiling apology for the accidental bump. The boy turns bright red and gazes at Jiwoo, completely mesmerized by her incredible beauty.
A sudden pop sounds as the boy's mind collapses under the sheer intensity of her charm. Juho watches in horror as the stranger collapses, realizing how truly insane Jiwoo's effect is. Juho's face is drenched in sweat as his wide eyes dart around in pure, unadulterated terror. Gritting his teeth with a pained ugh, Juho feels the girl's presence looming closely and threateningly behind him. Determined to survive her influence, Juho starts walking away as the girl calls out his childhood nickname.
Juho tells himself he has no other choice but to flee from her overwhelming and malicious psychological pressure.
A sudden, sharp kogak sounds as Juho slams his foot down to begin sprinting away at top speed.
A loud pang echoes as Juho sprints down the sidewalk, leaving a shocked and confused girl behind.
Standing alone on the street, the girl stares after him with a completely baffled and wide-eyed expression.
The scene shifts to a convenience store with bright umbrellas standing silent under the clear afternoon sun. A quick tup sounds as a hand reaches out to grab a packaged triangular rice ball from the shelf.
A heavy pile of sandwiches and snacks is gathered into a student's arms with a soft rustle. Juho stands in the store aisle clutching a mountain of food, his face tight with lingering academic anxiety.
The girl suddenly appears at his shoulder, asking why he ran away and noting his startled, fearful reaction.
She stares at him with an intense focus, her bright pink pupils shimmering with a look of curious amusement.
The girl wonders why he is buying so much food while Juho stares back, completely caught off guard.
She blushes and asks if the food is for her, but Juho delivers a cold, flat refusal.
After a dismissive huff, the girl pulls out her own wallet to show she has money too.
Her expression shifts to one of sudden, quiet realization as she looks into her small, empty wallet.
A soft thud sounds as Juho places his selection of snacks and coffee onto the checkout counter.
Juho pulls out his wallet and tells the clerk that these items will be his final purchase.
A quick swish sounds as the girl slides a carton of mint chocolate milk onto the counter.
She explains with a laugh that she forgot her card and promises to pay him back tomorrow.
Juho points out that there is no class tomorrow, leaving the girl and the clerk in awkward silence. Blushing, she suggests they meet up tomorrow to study together as a way to settle her debt.
Juho tells the clerk to remove the milk, prompting the girl to scream in desperate, loud protest.
The clerk tells her she must pay back by Monday, and she offers a small, dejected agreement.
A tear falls as Pyeon Dolseok, the single convenience store worker, mourns his own lonely, difficult life.
Outside, the girl sips her milk and comments on Juho's surprisingly large appetite for a morning meal.
Juho looks away with a sour expression, mentally dismissing her comments as nothing more than annoying nonsense. Juho grips his heavy bag of food tightly, determined to avoid her for the entire coming day.
Juho plans to stay safe by utilizing the fact that their assigned classroom seats are far apart.
He notes that conversation is strictly forbidden inside the science classroom, providing him a perfect, quiet sanctuary.
Juho enters the building with the girl behind him, confident his simple plan for peace will succeed.
A light Daruk sounds as Juho pulls out his chair, ready to begin his day in isolation.
He sits down and prepares his gear, focused on staying out of her sight until school ends.
A smug, victorious grin spreads across Juho's face as he revels in his clever tactical maneuver.
A soft Daruk sounds as the girl suddenly pulls out the chair directly next to Juho's desk.
A heavy silence falls as Juho slowly turns his head to see the girl sitting right beside him.
Juho's face pales as he stammers in total shock, unable to comprehend her presence in that seat.
The girl offers a cheerful smile and innocently asks what is wrong with his current panicked state.
Juho shouts in disbelief, demanding to know why she is sitting in a seat that isn't hers.
A subtle smirk plays on the girl's lips as she prepares to deliver her clever, mischievous explanation.
With a smug look, she admits that the seat originally belonged to someone else before she intervened.
She explains that his usual partner happily switched seats with her, leaving Juho sweating in absolute despair.
Juho flinches as the reality of his situation sinks in, his plan for peace completely shattered.
Juho hunches over his desk, letting out a fractured laugh as his sanity begins to crumble away.
Other students laugh in the background at the cruel irony of Juho's failed attempt to escape her. The girl leans in close with a bright smile, ready to move on to their next interaction.
Her eyes glow with a frightening intensity as she suggests they try a very specific new activity.
She presents a mock exam book and proposes a high-stakes bet on their upcoming test results. Juho cowers in his seat and screams out in frustration, unable to escape the girl's relentless games.
Jiwoo suggests a bet where the loser of their mock exam buys drinks at the snack bar.
Juho looks deeply unsettled by the challenge, but offers a small, reluctant agreement to her terms. Jiwoo cheerfully signals the start of their study session while Juho sweats profusely over his paper.
Looking downward, Juho internally questions if his remaining school life will truly be manageable after this.
The scene shifts to the school snack bar as a large crowd of students gathers for lunch. Jiwoo trembles with a dark, frustrated intensity, unable to believe the outcome of their academic bet. She leans in aggressively, demanding to know how Juho managed a 20-point lead over her score.
Juho smugly reminds her that he has no intention of ever losing their academic competitions.
Juho demands his reward, ordering an iced caramel macchiato and telling her to stop her complaining.
Juho catches her in a lie about her lack of funds, causing Jiwoo to gasp in shock. Jiwoo offers a sheepish apology as Juho fumes, forced to pay for the drinks once again.
Juho sips his coffee with a lingering look of suspicion and confusion toward the girl's behavior.
Jiwoo watches him with a soft, content smile as they stand together in the school hallway. She leans close and asks Juho for his honest thoughts on their current study arrangement. Jiwoo brightly asks if studying together is actually proving helpful for his concentration and academic success.
Juho hesitates, his eyes shifting away as he struggles to formulate an honest and composed response.
A flashback reveals Juho solving problems with manic intensity driven by his desperate desire to win. Adjusting his glasses, Juho reluctantly admits that her presence might actually be aiding his study habits.
Jiwoo celebrates with a loud laugh, playfully hitting his back and calling it a perfect win-win situation.
Suddenly, Jiwoo thrusts her smartphone toward him, indicating she wants him to interact with the device. She smiles broadly and directly asks Juho to provide her with his personal cell phone number.
Jiwoo proposes they meet up over the weekend to continue their study sessions in person.
Juho reacts with a look of pure dread, stammering out a refusal to her persistent invitation.
An enormous glowing pink eye looms over Juho as Jiwoo demands his number with terrifying authority.
A wall clock marks the passage of time as the school day finally comes to an end.
The scene shifts to Namjuho's house, where he sits slumped at his desk late at night.
Juho is visibly distressed at home, his face dripping with sweat as he ruminates on the day.
He stares blankly with wide, anxious eyes, haunted by the girl's overwhelming and persistent psychological pressure.
Juho internally debates if he is truly obligated to go through with their planned weekend meeting. He desperately hopes she has forgotten their arrangement, though he knows such a possibility is highly unlikely.
He considers lying about being sick to avoid her, but quickly dismisses the idea as too obvious.
Looking down dejectedly, he wonders if there is any way to escape her relentless influence.
The view shifts to the closed doors of his room, emphasizing his self-imposed isolation and anxiety.
Juho covers his face in despair, feeling completely trapped by the circumstances of their new relationship.
He hunches over his desk, agonizing over where his life went wrong and why he is suffering.
A sudden, sharp vibrate sounds as Juho's phone buzzes on the desk, startling him from his thoughts.
A notification appears on the screen with a simple greeting from Jiwoo's personalized message icon.
Jiwoo sends a map location and a message instructing him to meet her by 9 o'clock. Another vibration sounds as she sends a final, stern warning for him not to be late.
Juho stands at the designated meeting spot, staring at his phone with a look of resigned defeat.
The bright city buildings tower above the street where the two students have agreed to meet.
Dressed in a blue jacket, Juho leans against a wall while anxiously checking the time on his phone. He lets out a heavy sigh, noting that he arrived 20 minutes early despite his initial reluctance.
A quick vibrate sounds as another message from Jiwoo arrives on Juho's handheld smartphone device.
The text message from Jiwoo announces her arrival at their meeting location in all capital letters.
Juho looks around in a panic, wondering where she could be among the morning city crowds.
Jiwoo walks confidently toward him, dressed in an athletic white jacket and tight black leggings.
She pauses for a moment, looking around with bright eyes to locate Juho in the busy area.
Waving her arm high, she shouts his childhood nickname across the street, leaving Juho blushing with embarrassment.
Other students giggle at the cute nickname, causing Juho to recoil in total mortification and stress. Juho scolds Juho for using an embarrassing nickname while she playfully insists it is quite cute. Jiwoo notes Juho's early arrival with a cheeky grin, causing him to blush and look away.
Her playful demeanor softens as Jiwoo admits she was genuinely worried he might not show up. Juho scoffs at the idea of skipping out, despite his private morning plans to do exactly that. Jiwoo offers to treat him to a full meal to settle her debt from the previous day.
Juho remains focused on their academic goals, insisting they leave as soon as the studying is finished.
The pair arrives at a local cafe, its large glass windows revealing a warm, inviting interior.
Juho stands in shock at the sight of a massive crowd packed inside the busy coffee shop. Juho grumbles about the wait while Jiwoo wonders if the line indicates a particularly special experience.
A cheerful cafe worker welcomes them and asks how she can assist with their morning work.
Jiwoo turns to ask Juho for his drink preference as they finally reach the checkout counter.
Jiwoo orders an iced Americano and a cold brew from the clerk as Juho watches silently.
The clerk pauses, her bright yellow eye widening with a look of sudden, mischievous curiosity.
She leans in close to Jiwoo and asks if the two of them are currently a couple.
Juho reacts with a look of pure, wide-eyed horror as the clerk's question catches him off guard.
The clerk explains that couple behavior will earn them a free slice of cake for their date.
Juho prepares to deliver a stern rejection, but his words are cut short by Jiwoo's sudden movement. Jiwoo interrupts his protest by asking him to give her his hand with an intense, focused stare.
Juho's face contorts in internal agony as he realizes exactly what Jiwoo is planning to do.
A quick snap sounds as Jiwoo firmly claps Juho's hand in front of the watching cafe clerk.
Jiwoo smiles radiantly while Juho stands in a state of total blushing shock at her bold action.
The clerk gives an enthusiastic thumbs up, celebrating their successful participation in the store's romantic event.
Juho confronts Jiwoo about her ulterior motives, accusing her of setting him up for free dessert.
Sitting with their cake, Jiwoo ignores his complaints and focuses entirely on the delicious, sweet reward. Juho orders her to stop talking and focus, desperate to return to the safety of their studies.
Jiwoo agrees to start and reaches into her back, making Juho wonder about her actual habits.
Juho watches with suspicious intensity, finally hoping to witness Jiwoo's mysterious and effective method of studying.
He reflects on the fact that he has never actually seen her open a book before now.
Juho gulps nervously as he anticipates the revelation of the secret behind her surprisingly high grades. A heavy thud sounds as Jiwoo slams a massive thick volume onto the table between them.
Juho's jaw drops as Jiwoo opens a complete English dictionary and prepares to memorize every single entry.
He stammers in disbelief, asking if she truly intends to learn an entire dictionary from start to finish.
Jiwoo explains her simple logic, believing that knowing every word in existence guarantees a perfect exam score.
Juho stares at her with a look of profound, hollow confusion at her absurdly inefficient study strategy. He points out that exam words are limited and tells her she is wasting her time.
Juho pulls a book from his bag, intending to give her a more practical and targeted resource.
Juho realizes that Jiwoo is a genius if she can maintain high grades with such bad habits.
He internally notes that she would be truly terrifying if she ever learned how to study properly.
Jiwoo looks at him with a confused tilt of her head as Juho remains silent and intense.
Juho thrusts a handwritten vocabulary guide toward her, its cover marked as his own personal study aid. He explains that the book summarizes 20 years of exams to save her from her own nonsense. A quick swish sounds as Jiwoo reaches out and takes the notebook from Juho's trembling hands. A soft tap sounds as Jiwoo blushes deeply and offers a quiet, sincere word of thanks. Jiwoo hides her face behind the notebook, her eyes shining with a look of genuine, soft appreciation.
Juho turns bright red and looks away, unable to handle the sudden, intense warmth of the moment.
The scene shifts to the dark exterior of a local restaurant as the night finally closes in.
A cheerful jingle sounds as they leave, with Jiwoo asking if he enjoyed the famous meal.
Juho avoids her gaze with a sour, blushing expression, refusing to admit he had a good time.
A sudden, sharp thump sounds as Juho's heart begins to pound with a strange, new intensity.
Juho wonders if his racing pulse is caused by academic competition or something far more complicated.
Juho's eye widens as he insists to himself that nothing about this situation is strange.
Juho blushes intensely as a quick sounds while he stands next to a silent Jiwoo.
Jiwoo remains silent, her bright pink eyes focused downward as she contemplates their time together today.
Jiwoo exclaims that today was fulfilling, while Juho stands behind her looking flustered and blushing. She enthusiastically notes that she learned Juho's study habits and even acquired a new study method. Jiwoo declares her victory in their bet is inevitable as Juho reacts with wide-eyed, visible stress.
Jiwoo teases that he is too easy and will likely be kicked out of the academy.
Juho reacts with a sudden, sharp snap sounding as he realizes he is being mocked. He stares with intense determination and flatly declares that such a failure will never actually happen. Juho adjusts his glasses, internally noting her ulterior motives and telling her not to whine later.
Jiwoo offers a subtle, blushing smile as she watches Juho's intense reaction to her playful teasing.
Jiwoo gives a thumbs up and suggests it would be better for him to get a little nervous.
Her expression turns menacing as she warns there will be no more leniency for him next time.
Juho questions her claim of being lenient, while Jiwoo laughs and insists it was visually obvious.
Juho shouts, asking if she was really holding back, while she teases that he won't get mercy.
They bicker in the street, with Juho demanding a challenge and Jiwoo claiming he would have failed.
An unknown observer records their public argument through the screen of a handheld mobile smartphone device.
A sudden, low buzz sounds as the 3-lens camera of a white smartphone records them.
A hidden person watches from the shadows, smiling widely and whispering about how much fun this is.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Jiwoo and Juho scream in shock upon realizing the current time.
The smartphone screen displays the time as 8:38 p.m. on Saturday, April 12th.
Jiwoo panics about being scolded for the late hour while Juho asks if she has a curfew.
Jiwoo waves goodbye and leaves first, and Juho offers a brief and casual farewell in response.
Jiwoo pauses and turns back for one final word as Juho watches her with a surprised look.
She waves one last time and brightly exclaims that their day together was really a lot of fun. Juho scratches his head, blushing and wondering why she found a study session to be so enjoyable.
Jiwoo proposes they meet to study again tomorrow, catching Juho completely off guard with the persistent invitation.
Juho laughs quietly to himself and adjusts his glasses, seemingly amused by her relentless and energetic behavior.
Juho bluntly tells her to get lost as they stand apart on the quiet city street corner.
Sunday passes with Juho studying alone in a cafe booth, content in his own peaceful, isolated environment.
Monday arrives as students gather outside the modern building of the Chumsong Retake Comprehensive Academy.
Juho rubs his face, lamenting that he overdid his studies yesterday and failed to manage his condition.
Juho walks through the bright academy hallway, deciding to buy an energy drink to combat his fatigue.
A sudden, chilling prickle sounds as Juho experiences intense goosebumps and a feeling of being watched.
A quick whoosh sounds as Juho spins around in the hallway, searching for the source of his discomfort.
Juho sweats nervously as he looks at the crowd of students, unable to identify anyone watching him.
Juho stares blankly with wide eyes and asks himself what is happening as his confusion grows deeper.
A busy hum sounds as students crowd around the counter of the school's convenience store.
A sudden sharp pop sounds as Juho opens a silver energy drink can with a focused expression.
A quick gulp sounds as Juho drinks from the can while still clutching his study notebook tightly.
Juho continues drinking but remains preoccupied by the strange, chilling sensation he felt earlier in the day.
A sudden, heavy thrum sounds as Juho experiences the overwhelming weight of an uncomfortable, unseen gaze.
A messy drip sounds as Juho chokes on his drink, the liquid spilling down from his mouth.
Juho notes that since this morning, he has felt the constant, heavy gaze of something upon him.
Jiwoo stands nearby with her pink eyes wide open as if reacting to something in the distance.
A quiet scratch sounds as they study together, though Juho remains visibly distracted by his own paranoia.
Even with Jiwoo right beside him, Juho remains haunted by the persistent feeling of being watched.
Juho looks down dejectedly, feeling as if someone is dissecting every inch of his body with their eyes.
Juho sweats as he laments his inability to identify the source of the gaze following him everywhere. A sudden, terrifying throb sounds as a massive, glowing red eye looms over Juho's hunched, anxious form.
Juho freezes as he realizes the source of the intense gaze is incredibly close to him.
Juho spins around in the hallway and shouts, demanding to know who is following him.
A dark-haired man with a single glowing red eye reveals himself and calmly claims his identity.
Juho sweats as he recognizes Choi Gang-gyo, his physics homeroom teacher, also known as Yumra.
The teacher demands Juho to follow him for a private meeting, leaving the student visibly trembling.
Students whisper among themselves, speculating that Juho is about to receive the dreaded judgment of Yumra.
The teacher looms menacingly over a terrified Juho, confirming that he is initiating his personal judgment.
Juho curses under his breath, realizing he faces a dangerous one-on-one meeting with the strict teacher.
A red stamp brands the accused as a sinner, marking them for intense and unforgiving scrutiny.
The counseling room door stands closed, representing a metaphorical death sentence for any student branded there. Inside the office, Juho sits stiffly while the teacher addresses him with a heavy, ominous tone.
The teacher asks about Juho's school life, while Juho internally notes how uncomfortable the meeting feels.
Juho's eye widens as the teacher mentions rumors regarding his suspicious relationship with the student Jiwoo.
A glowing red eye fills the screen as the teacher asks if he should be worried.
Juho panics, wondering if their weekend study session was spotted and reported to the academy staff.
Juho desperately waves his hands, insisting that nothing inappropriate is happening between him and his classmate.
The teacher claims to believe him, acknowledging Juho's reputation as a model student focused on grades.
The teacher's hand clenches tightly as he warns Juho of the consequences of any potential mishap.
The teacher orders him to stay prepared while Juho can only offer a weak, terrified confirmation.
Juho reflects on his narrow escape from being officially branded as he walks through the hallway.
Juho adjusts his glasses while passing Jiwoo, who sits silently at her desk in the distance.
Juho walks away with his head down, bitter that Jiwoo's presence continues to cause him trouble. He criticizes Jiwoo's expression, annoyed that she looks like the victim despite her earlier bold behavior.
Juho heads toward Lecture Room 5, trying to convince himself his conscience is entirely clear today.
Juho slumps over his desk in the lecture hall, looking completely drained from his morning ordeal. Juho's attention is pulled from his frustration when a stranger suddenly approaches his desk from behind.
A blonde girl with glasses and a messy bun sits directly beside him in the classroom.
Juho stares at the girl with visible confusion, wondering who she is and what she wants.
Juho looks around the nearly empty classroom, baffled that she chose the seat right next to him.
The girl leans in with a piercing gaze, her red eyes fixed intensely on Juho's startled face.
The blonde girl notes that Juho has no idea who she is despite their shared classes.
She explains they share a science class while Juho offers a polite but confused apology for forgetting.
The girl admits she is interested in him, using a familiar term that catches Juho off guard.
Juho listens in shock as she recites his personal details, family history, and his academic failure.
She praises his perfect scores in life science despite the Academy's difficult mock exams and low averages.
Leaning close, she demands to know the secret method behind his unprecedented perfect score in life science.
Juho sweats and gives a simple answer, stating he just solved the problems as they came.
The girl shouts in frustration, insisting that he teach her how to replicate his incredible academic success.
She begs him to share his study method, her face showing a mix of desperation and intensity.
Juho rejects her plea, his expression turning sour as he refuses to entertain her persistent request.
He explains he is too busy with his own studies to waste time helping another student.
Juho looks at a phone screen and dismissively tells her to find someone else to tutor her.
Juho's eye widens in total horror as he looks at the image displayed on the girl's phone. The girl shows a photo of him and Jiwoo together, repeating her interest in him menacingly.
Juho realizes with a shock that the girl's eyes are the source of his morning paranoia.
He confirms that her intense, red-eyed gaze matches the feeling of being watched he felt all day.
She blackmails him, pointing out that revealing the photo would trigger further judgment from the physics teacher.
Juho grits his teeth in anger and fear, demanding to know the true identity of his blackmailer.
The blonde girl introduces herself as Min Jarim, explaining she is 2 years younger than Juho.
Min Jarim smiles brightly and expresses her excitement for their future cooperation at the Academy. A sudden, bright chime sounds as the Academy's intercom system activates.
A heavy thud sounds as Juho steps firmly onto the tile floor.
Juho stares down nervously, sweating as the tension in the room escalates.
A cold click sounds as Jarim holds a silver revolver to Juho's head, demanding his quiet cooperation.
Jarim orders Juho to meet her for 40 minutes every evening in the shared study room.
Jarim's red eye narrows as she promises to see him later that evening.
Juho seethes internally, outraged that she intends to steal 40 minutes of his precious study time.
Juho tries to negotiate for a shorter session, but Jarim ignores him and walks away.
Jarim approaches the tall physics teacher, calling out to him as Juho watches from the hallway.
Jarim tells the teacher she has something to show him, her red eyes gleaming maliciously.
A loud scream sounds as Juho panics, desperately agreeing to the 40-minute session.
The scene shifts to the entrance of Science Class 1, marking the start of morning lessons.
A quiet hush falls over the classroom while Juho watches Jiwoo from his desk.
A heavy thrum sounds as Jiwoo sits hunched over, radiating a dark and brooding aura.
Jiwoo believes Juho is merely acting angry to force a formal apology out of her.
Juho continues to watch Jiwoo's back, still feeling the weight of their earlier conflict.
A sharp ahem sounds as Juho clears his throat, but Jiwoo remains visibly annoyed. The classroom remains silent as Juho and Jiwoo ignore each other amidst the other students.
Jiwoo finally turns around with a bewildered look, questioning Juho's silent presence behind her.
Jiwoo asks if he has anything to say, but Juho offers a blunt rejection.
Jiwoo stares in total shock, her eyes widening at his cold and dismissive response. Jiwoo shouts that while she is sorry for his difficulties, he was also being harsh.
Juho rubs his temple and tells her to stop talking about the entire situation.
Juho notes that continuing the conversation will blow his cover and decides to keep his distance.
Jiwoo trembles with pure rage, her face flushed and her fists clenched tight.
A sharp humph sounds as Jiwoo turns away in a huff, leaving Juho exhausted.
Juho laments the loss of his study time, frustrated at needing to rearrange his routine.
Juho frantically plans to come in early tomorrow to make up for his lost review time.
A sudden loud slam sounds as Juho hits his hand onto the desk in frustration.
Juho clenches his fist, wondering why he is wasting energy worrying about such a situation. Juho finds it incredibly frustrating that Jarim would dare to threaten someone like him.
Juho's eye twitches as he vows to find Jarim's weakness and get back at her.
A quick slide sounds as Jarim walks down the hallway with a neutral expression.
A steady tap sounds as Jarim passes by Juho and Jiwoo's desks without a work.
A sudden scrape sounds as Juho stands up abruptly, catching a surprised Jiwoo off guard.
A quick patter sounds as Juho rushes out of the classroom to follow Jarim.
Jiwoo watches him leave with a pensive look, her finger pressed to her chin.
Jarim walks through the academy hallway while clutching her green notebook to her chest.
Juho peeks around a corner, stealthily tracking Jarim as she moves through the building.
Juho vows to find Jarim's weakness and use it against her just as she did.
A male student greets Jarim and offers to buy her a coffee, hoping for her attention.
A chilling whoosh sounds as Jarim gives the boy a terrifying and murderous glare.
The boy notes that she is difficult, but admits he enjoys her intense behavior.
Juho watches from the shadows, realizing that Jarim is also dealing with her own secrets.
Juho's eyes widen in shock as he witnesses a suspicious meeting in the hallway.
A red-haired man greets Jarim, claiming he knew she would come looking for him.
A quick snap sounds as the man holds up a gold packet and makes a suggestive comment.
Jarim blushes and admits she loves it, her expression turning uncharacteristically giddy and excited. Juho stares at the golden object in horror, his mind racing as he identifies it.
A sudden scream sounds as Juho gasps in shock upon realizing the object is a condom.
Juho watches the red-haired man loom over Jarim, scolding her for crossing lines far too many times.
Terrified and sweating, Juho wonders if he should report this suspicious situation to the teacher or police.
He hesitates, questioning if he is
Juho bursts out with shielded eyes, pleading with them to stop whatever weird activity they are doing immediately.
Juho prays with eyes squeezed shut while Jarim and the man sit surrounded by various pill bottles.
Bottles of nutrition gold and vitamin supplements sit scattered alongside small foil pockets on the classroom floor.
Peeking through his fingers, Juho looks on with utter confusion at the unexpected scene of supplement consumption.
The red-haired man swallows a supplement and asks the startled intruder to identify himself.
The man questions Juho's presence, but Jarim quickly claims that Juho has been her tutor recently.
A wet lick sounds as the red-haired man mockingly expresses his approval of Juho's tutoring role.
Grinning menacingly, the man invites Juho to join their vitamin club to fix his obvious exhaustion.
The man explains the focus-improving benefits of tyrosine while Jarim watches Juho sweat in silence.
Jarim leans in close and mocks Juho for failing to find a single actionable weakness against her.
Juho stares in shock, realizing that Jarim was fully aware of his attempt to spy on her. Jarim warns that she is always watching, her threat punctuated by the imagery of a giant eye.
Her expression turns murderous as Jarim threatens to kill him if he continues pulling such tricks.
Overcome by fear, Juho collapses to his knees as the weight of Jarim's intense threat hits him.
Juho reflects on being completely cornered and played by the girl he had hoped to outsmart today.
Jarim punishes him for his spying by extending their daily study session to 1 full hour. Jarim exits the dark room, leaving a defeated Juho behind as she walks toward the academy hallway.
Hidden in the shadows, Jiwoo watches Jarim with a single, wide, and intensely focused red eye.
Jarim walks alone through the hallway, clutching her green notebook as she heads toward her next task.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Jarim stops in her tracks, startled by someone's unexpected presence nearby.
Jiwoo looms over Jarim from within a dark, eye-shaped shadow and offers a simple, chilling greeting.
Jiwoo identifies Min Jarim and asks if they can have a brief private conversation together.
Jarim looks back in a cold sweat, terrified by the sudden and intense confrontation with Jiwoo. A hand focuses on writing notes, the pen moving rhythmically across the surface of the study paper.
The hand begins to tremble visibly, causing the pen to shake uncontrollably against the lecture hall desk.
A sharp tap sounds as the pen tip hits the paper, breaking the tense silence of writing.
Jarim hunches over her work, looking stressed and completely unable to focus on the task at hand. Jarim stares blankly through her glasses, lost in her own distressing thoughts while sitting at her desk.
Juho shouts at Jarim, jolting her out of her daze and demanding her immediate attention.
Juho scolds Jarim for spacing out and tells her to stop wasting his time if she won't focus.
Jarim blushes deeply and insists she is focusing, despite her obvious nerves and shaking hands.
Her hand trembles over her notes as she struggles to maintain her composure during the difficult study session.
Jarim looks down in distress, wondering if she has landed herself in serious trouble with Jiwoo.
The scene shifts back to the hallway confrontation where Jiwoo looms over Jarim with a greeting.
Jiwoo repeats her request for a private talk, maintaining a dark and overwhelming presence over the younger girl.
Jarim asks what Jiwoo wants, noting internally that the girl is just as intense as rumors suggested. Jiwoo demands that Jarim stop approaching Juho, claiming Jarim's presence is causing him significant academic struggle.
Jarim refuses the request, her eyes widening as she questions why she should listen to a stranger. Jarim calls Jiwoo's request presumptuous, pointing out that she has no reason to listen to her.
Jiwoo asks if Jarim has romantic feelings for Juho, catching the blonde girl completely off guard.
A heavy step sounds as Jiwoo walks closer, closing the distance between herself and the blonde girl.
Jiwoo stands directly in front of Jarim, her height and intensity used to dominate and intimidate her.
Jarim gasps as Jiwoo reaches into her pocket to pull out a hidden item for Jarim to see.
Jiwoo shows her phone displaying a recording, praising Jarim for her boldness during their private conversation.
Jarim screams in despair as she realizes Jiwoo has recorded her confession and earlier defiant statements. Jiwoo stands triumphantly with the recording, leaving Jarim staring at the device in total, silent defeat. Completely broken by the blackmail, Jarim tearfully agrees to let Jiwoo study with Juho as requested.
A thought bubble containing a simple conjunction suggests a shift in the current perspective or plan.
Jiwoo's red eye glows as she orders Tarim to report every detail discovered about Juho.
Jiwoo demands that Jareem dig up every detail of Juho's daily interests and report them all.
Jiwoo warns that Jareem cannot refuse these conditions without facing immediate and severe academic consequences.
With a chilling glare, Jiwoo vows to ensure Jareem is expelled from the academy if she fails.
A realization strikes Tarim as she understands the true dark nature of Jiwoo's obsessive behavior.
Jiwoo radiates a dark aura while Jareem notes her feelings are far beyond ordinary romantic interests.
Looking into Jiwoo's intense eye, Jareem realizes she is plotting to eliminate someone entirely. Jareem's hand trembles against her notebook as she regrets messing with someone so dangerous. Jerem's teeth grind together as she struggles to process the gravity of her situation.
Jerem agrees to the deal with a menacing smile, noting there is no turning back.
Jareem bites her pen in frustration, reflecting on the heavy words she just spoke.
Jerem's red eye focuses sharply as she potentially plots her own secret move.
Juho writes determinedly, resolving never to share anything personal during their forced study sessions.
Jerem clutches her head in despair, fearing the consequences if she fails the terrifying witch.
Blushing deeply, Jareem breaks the silence by asking Juho if he has anyone he likes.
Juho is startled while Jareem quickly clarifies she meant a celebrity to ease the tension.
Pushing up his glasses, Juho declares that his favorite idol group A-Reason is completely unmatched.
Juho rants that A-Reason excels in every category, comparing their multi-talented performance to top-tier grades.
Juho praises their masterpiece anniversary album, while Jareem notes his intense and hardcore idol fandom. Jareem reflects that Juho's fanatic obsession with A-Reason might be at least somewhat useful information. Juho flinches as Jerem shifts the conversation to ask about his typical practice exam scores. Juho breaks into a sweat while questioning if Jerem is truly in his elite science class. Jareem confirms her class placement, leaving Juho staring at her with a look of absolute disbelief.
Juho shouts in disbelief, holding up her low scores and asking if she bribed someone.
Furious and blushing, Jareem explains only her biology score is bad and demands his tutoring help. Juho rubs his temple, sighing that her academic situation is far worse than he initially thought. Juho points aggressively at a problem, shouting that it should only take 10 seconds to solve.
Jareem's face flushes red as she realizes Juho has leaned in far too close for comfort.
Juho demands Jerem focus on the important material while she stammers out a nervous reply.
Juho yells that she is approaching the logic wrong and should simply memorize the core concepts.
Jareem's hand moves rhythmically across the paper as she follows Juho's intense and loud instructions.
Jerem is impressed by Juho's teaching, realizing he is far more effective than she ever expected.
Jareem's eyes widen as difficult problems suddenly make sense thanks to Juho's clear, direct explanations.
Jareem presents her personal innovation notebook to Juho, marking a shift in their dynamic. Juho explains the notebook contains special problem-solving techniques and tells Jareem to memorize them.
Jareem hesitates to take the personal notes, but Juho insists he has already memorized the contents. Jareem blushes as she holds the notebook, thinking Juho is actually a very thoughtful person.
Jareem steals a sideways glance at Juho, her expression softened by his unexpected academic support.
Jerem thinks that letting the witch take Juho down would be a complete waste of potential. Jareem's face flushes as she considers that failing to utilize Juho will eventually hurt her. Jareem looks at Juho with a pensive expression and asks if she should help him.
Jerem mentions Jiwoo is targeting him and offers her assistance since she needs him safe.
Juho questions her sudden shift after the photo threats, but Jareem calls it a negotiation tactic.
Jareem smiles mischievously and asks Juho if he wants to try her plan against Jiwoo.
Juho's eye widens in shock as he considers the possibility of getting back at Jiwoo.
Juho remains silent, his brow furrowed as he weighs Jareem's suspicious offer of mutual aid.
Walking through the hallway, Juho wonders if he's being scammed by the girl's sudden helpfulness. Juho stops abruptly, his attention caught by a familiar figure standing further down the hall.
Jiwoo stands alone by a hallway window, her back turned as she watches the outside world.
Jiwoo looks away with a blush, looking troubled while clutching her pink tracksuit jacket.
Juho contemplates the awkwardness of bringing up the fight they had earlier in the day.
Jiwoo is startled to see Juho and pretends she was just passing by as a coincidence.
They stand in silence, an awkward, intense atmosphere settling over the empty school hallway.
Jiwoo asks Juho about the girl from their class he was with, wondering what they were doing. Juho clarifies he was only helping her study.
With wide eyes and a nervous grin, Jiwoo asks how the study sets him up.
Juho looks away and sweats, struggling to provide an honest answer to her intense question.
Juho explains that the girl seems smart and follows instructions well, despite having bad scores.
Juho admits the girl seems decent, but stops himself before finishing his thought about her.
Jiwoo's expression turns terrifyingly dark as the narration suggests Juho might actually like the girl.
Juho walks through the busy city streets, carrying his backpack as he reflects on everything.
Juho stops and looks forward with a serious, determined expression while adjusting his glasses.
A hand rhythmically moves across the paper, the pen creating a steady and purposeful sound.
Juho hunches over his work, writing with intense focus in his notebook during study time.
A sharp swoosh sounds as Juho's eyes narrow with extreme concentration behind his glasses.
Jiwoo sits quietly at her desk, working on her notes with her long hair down.
Juho notes that his ability to focus has noticeably decreased as he stares down blankly.
Juho lets out a quiet heh, satisfied that his secret plan is unfolding exactly as intended.
Jerim, her blonde hair in a bun, orders Juho to tell Jiwoo that he has feelings for her.
Juho shouts in disbelief, asking if she is crazy, while Jerim suggests showing slight interest.
Jerim explains Jiwoo was trying to ruin his grades by making him fall for her.
Jerim suggests that if Jiwoo thinks he likes Jerim, she will stop interfering with him.
Juho looks surprised, realizing that Jerim's strange logic actually makes a lot of sense.
Juho starts the 40-minute mock exam while Jiwoo sits across from him ready to begin.
Juho reflects that Jerim's prediction about minimizing risks while studying worked out perfectly. A hand grips a pen firmly against the desk as the mock exam timer kicks.
Juho points confidently, declaring that he can finally focus on his studies without any distractions.
Juho looks completely horrified and shocked by something he sees in his exam book.
The exam paper shows a failing score of 21 written in prominent, bold red ink.
Juho compares their scores, wondering if Jiwoo has lost her mind after getting 21 points.
Juho yells in disbelief, demanding to know what happened with her score and if she's joking.
Jiwoo sits silently with a blank expression, drawing small faces in her notebook instead of studying.
A shocked, huh? Escapes Juho as his face turns dark with confusion and total disbelief.
Juho stares at the failing paper, questioning the point of the challenge after such results. Juho looks down in quiet disappointment, feeling completely drained by the outcome of the session.
Juho wonders if Jiwoo has personal issues she can't talk about, while the note says he is off the mark.
Juho bluntly tells Jiwoo they should just stop their study session after her poor performance. Juho stares down at his book, declaring the entire mock exam challenge a waste of time. Jiwoo looks up in shock as Juho claims he doesn't have the luxury for her issues.
Juho reminds her the bet was for studying and tells her to forget everything else.
Juho resolves to push harder, reminding himself that their academic goals are not a game.
Juho expects that his harsh lecture will finally make her take the mock exam seriously.
Jiwoo begins to cry, her face flushing deep red as tears stream down her face.
Juho reacts with wide-eyed panic and a loud shout as he sees her emotional reaction.
Juho panics and asks her why she is crying as she hunches over her desk. A classmate watches with a stunned expression, realizing that the intense Jiwoo is actually Sobin.
Students begin to whisper, asking why she's crying and if Juho is responsible for it.
In the hallway, the gossip spreads that Juho might have delivered a particularly harsh insult.
In another classroom, students call Juho a psycho for taking things way too far with Jiwoo.
A group of girls surrounds the crying Jiwoo, asking if she is okay or needs help.
Juho is cornered by menacing shadows accusing him of insulting Yo Jiwoo while he trembles.
Shadows declare him unworthy, dismissing his grades and plotting his total academic destruction in retaliation.
A massive speech bubble pulses with a terrifying and collective intent to kill him.
Stylized figures with wide eyes chant for his death in a disturbing and rhythmic chorus.
Juho is tied up under a fantasy guillotine as the bloodthirsty crowd demands his execution.
The sharp blade of the executioner's tool gleams as it begins its fatal descent.
A rhythmic clatter sounds as Juho's head is locked into the wooden stocks in terror.
A hand reaches out with a sudden and blurry motion, grabbing Juho's shoulder with force.
Juho looks back in shock as a firm grip takes hold of his school jacket.
Jerim runs frantically through the hall, dragging the stunned Juho away from the angry crowd.
Jerim and Juho hide behind a wall, gasping and huffing for air after their escape.
Jerim warns Juho that Jiwoo is a monster who planned this level of social destruction.
Jerim considers a new plan but quickly realizes she doesn't need one after all.
Jerim looks back at the dejected Juho, deciding that the current situation is actually fine.
Jerim scolds Juho for his guilt, claiming Jiwoo cried on purpose to manipulate his feelings.
Juho looks down with a serious expression, insisting that Jiwoo's emotional breakdown was not acting.
Juho covers his face in distress, certain that his harsh words truly hurt her feelings.
Jerim looks at the conflicted boy and asks what he plans to do now.
Juho sits on the floor, resolving to apologize since he was clearly in the wrong.
Jerim stares at Juho, humming thoughtfully as she processes his surprisingly honorable decision to apologize.
Jerim questions if an apology will work, doubting the other students will let this slide.
Juho panics and begs for help, but Jerim reminds him he previously rejected her aid.
Jiwoo suddenly appears behind them, stating she has already taken care of the entire situation.
Jerim and Juho are both paralyzed by shock at the black-haired girl's sudden appearance.
Jiwoo leans in close to the sweating Juho, attempting to explain her earlier emotional outburst.
A quick swish sounds as Jiwoo reaches into Juho's pocket with a sudden, precise movement.
Juho is horrified to find Jiwoo's phone in his pocket with a 3-hour recording active.
Juho shouts in panic, demanding to know why her phone was hidden in his pocket.
Jiwoo looks down with a blank expression, listening to the phone as she holds it.
Jiwoo's red eye focuses sharply as she concludes they were both plotting something against her.
Jerim and Juho are both terrified as they realize they are completely and utterly screwed. Jiwoo's face is shadowed, her expression dark and unreadable following her discovery of their betrayal.
Jiwoo turns away with a quick motion, leaving the sweating Juho in a state of confusion.
Jiwoo walks away crying while classmates whisper, leaving Jareem and Juho watching with relief. Jareem and Juho are both stunned, unable to hear or understand what she just said. Jareem blushes and looks nervous, wondering how the confrontation could have gone so smoothly.
Jiwoo sits at her desk looking surprised and blushing as someone approaches her quietly.
Juho stands before Jiwoo, blushing intensely as he struggles to begin his awkward apology. Juho stammers uncontrollably, his face turning a deep red as he tries to find words.
Jiwoo looks at the boy in confusion while he continues to struggle with his speech.
Juho trembles and grinds his teeth in frustration, trying to force his apology out.
A loud thud sounds as Juho slams a carton of mint chocolate milk on her desk.
Juho presents the Swedish mint chocolate milk to Jiwoo while she watches him with surprise.
Juho hides his blushing face in his hand, feeling overwhelmed by his own awkward behavior. Juho apologizes for being too harsh earlier, admitting he shouldn't have said those harsh things.
Jiwoo smiles sweetly with a deep blush, clearly touched by his sincere and clumsy effort.
A sharp pinch sounds as Jiwoo grabs Juho's side, making him scream out in pain.
Juho clutches his side in shock, asking her why she suddenly attacked him like that.
Jiwoo looks annoyed, asking if he really thinks a single milk carton makes everything okay.
Juho looks completely flustered and defeated, wondering what he is supposed to do next.
A sharp noise sounds as Jiwoo flashes a predatory wide grin with her pointed teeth.
Jiwoo offers to let the earlier conflict slide if Juho agrees to grant her one request.
The school cafeteria stands mostly empty as the afternoon sun casts long shadows across the floor.
Jareem sits alone at a large table, her back turned as she focuses on her schoolwork.
Jareem hunches over her notebook with a frustrated expression, her face turning a deep, stressed red. Jareem remains in focused silence, her hand hovering over the paper as she processes a difficult problem.
Jareem grinds her teeth and lets out a frustrated groan while struggling with her biology notes.
Jareem covers her face and sighs, wondering why her thoughts are being occupied by someone else. Jareem shouts in frustration, wondering where she's supposed to find time to think about anything else.
Juho suddenly appears behind her, asking what she's doing and causing her to jump in shock.
Jareem yells at Juho, asking why he is so late when their study session is almost over.
A sudden and sharp sound rings out as Jareem's eye widens in a look of total shock.
Juho lets out a heavy sigh, explaining that he simply couldn't help the delay.
Juho admits Jiwoo insisted on being included in their group, and he didn't have the right refuse.
Jiwoo waves cheerfully, asking how long the two of them have known each other.
Jiwoo's pink eye glows with an intense and terrifying focus as she asks for Jareem's agreement.
Jareem is frozen in absolute terror and disbelief upon hearing Jiwoo mention her name so casually. Jareem looks away with a dark expression while Juho awkwardly attempts to smooth over the tense atmosphere.
Juho asks Juho if she even knows they are studying biology too, and she confidently confirms it.
Juho points out her elective is Biology 1, questioning what she hopes to accomplish with their group.
Jiwoo laughs off his concern, stating that she will just change her elective subject to Biology 2.
Jareem and Juho both stare in bug-eyed disbelief at the black-haired girl's reckless and illogical decision.
Juho shouts at her, asking if she thinks studying is a joke after she suggests working hard.
Jiwoo smiles sweetly and blushes, asking her Hoya if he is going to teach her well.
Juho remains silent and blushes intensely, looking down while unable to find a response to her. A quick sound effect rings out as Juho gives up, telling Jiwoo to do whatever she wants. Jareem watches with deep suspicion, wondering why the girl would go so far to join them.
Jareem regrets her involvement, thinking that Jiwoo is exactly the type of person she dislikes the most.
Jiwoo suddenly calls out to Jareem, catching the blonde-haired girl off guard with her cheerful tone. Jiwoo leans in with a focused gaze, asking Jareem if she wants to try that with her.
Jareem looks back with wide eyes and a sweating face, confused by the girl's mysterious request.
Juho explains that they need to gauge their skills since they seem to be at similar levels.
Jareem asks for clarification on what he means while Juho prepares to explain his new plan.
Juho holds up a red Biology 2 mock exam book, proposing a battle to help them improve.
Jareem slams the table in a rage, yelling that comparing her to a beginner is complete nonsense.
Juho bluntly tells Jareem that despite her recent improvements, her scores are still awful like the others.
The exam papers reveal Jiwoo scored 25 while the shocked Jareem only managed to get 22.
Jareem trembles in absolute disbelief, unable to comprehend how she could have actually lost the exam battle.
Juho questions how Jiwoo got such a high score during her very first time studying the subject.
Jiwoo claims it was just common sense while Jareem seethes with rage and grinds her teeth nearby.
Jareem's fist shakes violently on the table as she struggles to contain her immense frustration and shame.
Jareem lets out a pained groan as tears begin to well up in her red-rimmed, angry eyes.
Juho asks if she is crying, but Jareem snaps back with a shout, fiercely denying her tears.
Juho leans back and sighs, commenting that the wall of natural talent is a truly cruel thing. Jiwoo watches the crying girl with a blank expression, her pink eyes tracking Jareem's emotional breakdown closely.
Jiwoo's eyes widen as she observes Jarim's intense reaction, seemingly fascinated by the blonde girl's competitive spirit.
Jarim reacts with a confused look as a sudden and quick motion indicates someone is reaching out.
A loud sound rings out as Jiwoo suddenly hugs the stunned Jarim, laughing and calling her cute.
Jiwoo teases the crying Jarim about her competitive spirit while Jarim continues to stubbornly deny her tears.
Jiwoo smiles with a deep blush, thinking to herself that Jarim reminds her of someone very special.
Juho stares forward with a look of pure shock, his face turning bright red from embarrassment.
Students whisper in the background while Juho marvels at Jiwoo's insane ability to grab everyone's attention.
Juho clears his throat nervously, reminding Jiwoo that they are already short on study time today.
A sudden, loud thud rings out as a hand slams onto the table to stop him.
Jiwoo insists they must choose a name for their study group before they begin their work.
Juho accuses her of procrastinating while she suggests naming the group after their academy or elective. Jiwoo pauses with a thoughtful look, suggesting they call themselves the College Entrance Study Group.
Jiwoo exclaims that shortening the name to Sugong's is cute, looking absolutely delighted with her idea.
Jiwoo uses the new nicknames for her friends, while the exhausted Jarim slumps over the table.
Juho sighs heavily, weary of the girl's endless energy and her obsession with the group's name.
The three students sit at the cafeteria table, unaware of the intense schedule ahead of them.
A loud chime echoes as the speaker announces 10 o'clock, signaling the end of the session.
Exhausted students groan in the hallway, completely drained after enduring a brutal day of academy classes.
Most students lack the strength to move after surviving the academy's murderous daily schedule of lectures.
A rhythmic scratching sounds as Juho works intensely, his eyes wide with focus as he studies.
Every weekday from 10 until midnight, Juho remains in the study hall while the room empties. A scratching noise continues as the boy meticulously reviews his notes and previews all of tomorrow's lessons.
Juho sits surrounded by massive stacks of books, repeating this grueling process daily to master every subject.
The boy sweats profusely, pushing himself to ensure there is not a single gap in his knowledge.
Juho checks his watch with a cracked face, determined to never repeat a single academic mistake again. Jiwoo suddenly appears at his desk with a curious look, surprising the boy during his private session.
Jiwoo realizes this is where Juho hides after class, questioning why he chose the self-study room.
Juho grinds his teeth in frustration, hating that his only peaceful time has been discovered by her.
Juho watches her with suspicion, wondering why she is trying to interrupt his focused study routine now.
Jiwoo smiles cheerfully, announcing that she will stay and study before she goes home for the night. Juho explains that she needs to match his intense study hours to keep up with his grades.
Juho watches the girl in silence as she begins to work, her presence completely changing the atmosphere.
Juho adjusts his glasses as he realizes the situation has shifted into a normal study session together.
The two students sit side by side in the quiet room, focusing on their notebooks in surprising harmony.
Juho blushes and looks away, wondering if he can finally afford to lower his guard around her. Jiwoo smiles sweetly at him, promising that she is truly going to study super hard this time. Jiwoo confidently states she will ace the mock exam while Juho watches her with a skeptical look. A voice boldly claims she will achieve a higher score than the boy sitting next to her today.
Jiwoo explains she wants a high score so she can finally start dating him, leaving Juho stunned.
Juho's face turns a deep burning red as his eyes widen in total disbelief at her confession.
A sharp click sounds as the boy's grip on his pen tightens from the sudden emotional shock.
Juho clutches his pen with a trembling hand, his mind reeling from the girl's incredibly bold statement.
The boy gasps for air in a state of panic, his face contorted with shock and blushing intensity.
Juho struggles to compose himself, realizing she caught him completely off guard with such a lethal comment.
Juho realizes she saw an opening in his defenses and struck with precision the moment he relaxed.
Jiwoo rests her head on her hand with a smug smile, while Juho resolves to never relax.
The scene shifts to the city streets at 20 minutes past midnight as the students finally leave.
Juho and Jiwoo stand on the quiet subway platform together, surrounded by an awkward and heavy silence. Jiwoo breaks the silence by noting that they are both heading in the same direction on the train.
Juho says his stop is Sinsa, and Jiwoo excitedly reveals she gets off at the station prior.
A soft thump sounds as Jiwoo pats her chest, expressing her relief about their shared subway route.
Jiwoo smiles brightly, telling him she feels much safer walking home at night now that he is there.
Jiwoo explains that her fear of the night previously kept her from staying late for extra study sessions.
Jiwoo cheerfully declares she will now study every night, causing Juho to react with a look of horror.
Juho realizes that he is the one who is no longer safe as the subway train arrives.
Juho compares his struggle to escape Jiwoo to a fly caught in a fly trap. The two students sit awkwardly together on the subway as their journey finally begins. Jiwoo smiles brightly and asks Juho if he realizes they are spending more time together. Jiwoo explains that being outside the academy means they have fewer restrictions on their behavior. Juho asks if everything is fine no matter what she does since they are here.
Juho's face turns bright red as he asks her what she could possibly mean.
A playful whistle sounds as Jiwoo wonders aloud what she should actually do. Juho shouts a warning that he will take a taxi home if she crosses lines.
A close view of the black-haired girl reveals a wide and mischievous lingering smile.
Jiwoo repeats his words with a curious look, asking him what crossing the line means.
Juho's wide eye reflects his internal panic as she continues to push his boundaries.
Jiwoo leans her chin on her hand, asking Hoya for his definition of crossing lines.
A quick, sharp grab sounds as Juho grips his bag while blushing with intensity.
Jiwoo points toward herself and asks the boy if this action crosses his personal line.
A soft whoosh sounds as their legs touch, and she asks if this crosses it too. Jiwoo leans in with a grin and asks exactly where his line is located now.
Juho lets out a long, pained groan while his face burns with a deep blush.
Juho collapses against the seat in utter defeat as a soft, rhythmic laughter sounds.
Jiwoo declares she is now curious to find out exactly where his limits truly lie.
Juho remains frozen while Jiwoo's hand moves closer to his face in the silence. Their eyes lock for a moment as Juho fears what happens if she touches him.
A loud thud rings out as Juho recoils while Jiwoo reaches for his hand.
A sharp hiss sounds as the doors open and Jiwoo announces she is getting off.
Jiwoo waves and tells him that she will see him again tomorrow at the academy. A sharp hiss sounds as the doors close, leaving Juho alone on the train.
A rhythmic rumble sounds as Juho sits in shock while his soul seemingly departs.
Juho stares blankly at his notebook, realizing he hasn't made any progress at all.
The boy's hand trembles while holding a notebook filled with unstudied English vocabulary words.
Juho realizes her distracting behavior was a deliberate plan as he stands by the doors. Jiwoo stands alone while adjusting her jacket, her face flushed with a lingering heat.
The scene shifts to the towering modern building of the Chumsung Retake Comprehensive Academy. A soft murmur sounds as students gather in the hallway, signaling the lunch break.
Jiwoo holds her stomach and loudly complains that she is getting very hungry for lunch.
Jiwoo excitedly mentions the bibimbap lunch menu and plans to eat 2 full portions today. Jiwoo asks why he has been ignoring her all morning, while Juho watches in silence.
A voice calls out Jiwoo's name, causing her to turn away from the silent boy.
The girls invite Jiwoo to eat lunch with them, and she happily accepts their offer.
Jiwoo waves and calls out to Hoya, telling him that she will see him later.
Juho sighs and wonders how she changes friends so easily, feeling she crossed a line.
Juho ponders the situation while realizing he has his own consistent meal partner today.
A boy named Kim Sang-do asks Juho what's up and if he's ready for lunch.
Juho reflects on the boy he has known since their early high school years together. The two friends walk through the busy hallway toward the academy cafeteria for lunch.
A quick top sounds as Juho sets his food tray down across from his friend.
Juho notices something peculiar that only seems to happen when he eats with this guy.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Sang-do opens his mouth wide to take a bite.
Sang-do closes his eyes with a thoughtful hum while savoring the flavor of his meal.
A soft slurp sounds followed by a quick click as Sang-do eats his soup heartily.
Sang-do lets out a long, satisfied mmm sound as he finishes another delicious mouthful.
The two boys sit together in comfortable silence amidst the bustling lunchroom atmosphere.
Juho observes his friend eating, thinking to himself that the boy's chewing is obnoxiously loud.
A quick tap sounds against the table as the boy notes they usually eat in silence. Juho suddenly speaks up, causing Sang-do to stop mid-bite with a look of pure confusion.
Juho tells his friend he has something serious on his mind and asks for his attention.
Juho explains that he needs an objective, unbiased opinion from a neutral third party like him. The brownish-haired boy stares back at Juho in total silence while holding a piece of meat.
Sang-do remains calm and simply tells his friend to go on with whatever he says.
Juho brings up Yo Jiwoo, referring to her by her notorious nickname as the Academy's Witch.
Sang-do asks if she is his girlfriend, prompting Juho to explode in a loud denial.
Sang-do is surprised and asks if they weren't dating, while Juho shouts at him to stop.
Juho struggles to explain their complicated relationship, stating it cannot be easily defined by simple words. Juho compares their bond to a political power struggle where many conflicting interests are all tangled up. Juho describes their dynamic as one where they could cooperate or betray each other anytime. Juho asks his friend not to misunderstand, while Sang-do gives a brief and simple acknowledgement.
Sang-do rests his chin on his hands, curiously asking what exactly is bothering his friend N.
Juho explains he is balancing things precariously while using Jiwoo's presence to his current advantage. The boy expresses deep concern that their current relationship could turn into something dangerous very suddenly. Sang-do leans back casually and suggests that Juho just keep doing exactly what he is doing. Juho grows frustrated, questioning if his friend is listening to the gravity of his complex situation. Juho uses an analogy of a high-paying but life-threatening job, while Sang-do notes his love for comparisons. Juho stresses out over lingering risks, fearing that something truly terrible could happen in the future.
Sang-do suggests ending it, but Juho refuses due to the significant benefits he currently receives.
A close-up of the boy's eye captures his resolve as he mentions his stubborn pride.
A soft slurp sounds as Sang-do thoughtfully sips his drink while considering everything his friend said.
A quick click sounds as Sang-do prepares to deliver his promised, unbiased opinion on the matter.
Sang-do points at him and tells him to just keep things exactly as they are now. Juho stares at his friend with utter disbelief and disappointment after hearing such simple advice.
Juho complains his friend wasn't paying attention and wonders why he even asked for his help.
Sangdo sips his drink, asking Juho if he remembers how incredibly rough he was in high school.
Juho looks back with a puzzled expression, completely thrown off by the sudden subject change.
A moment of intense confusion follows as Juho struggles to process his friend's unexpected question.
In a flashback, a cold Juho asks a girl why she is asking him about academy homework.
High school Juho tells the girl to quit and stop wasting her parents' money if she's lazy. A girl cries in despair while younger Sangdo watches the harsh scene from the school hallway.
Sangdo stares at his friend with a deadpan look, waiting for the memory to fully sink in.
Juho reacts with horror and shock, wondering if he could have really been that cruel before.
Sangdo explains Juho used to be a terrible person, but he has significantly improved lately.
Sangdo tells him his newfound maturity is likely all thanks to his interaction with Yo Jiwoo.
Sangdo warns him not to fall too deeply in love since dating is forbidden there.
A sharp click sounds as Juho adjusts his glasses, dismissing his friend's concerns as entirely pointless.
Juho confidently states that the probability of him actually falling for the girl is absolutely zero.
Sangdo remains skeptical, noting anyone would react to being around someone as attractive as Jiwoo.
Juho recalls his physical reactions, like his racing heart and cold sweats during their close encounter.
Juho firmly says no, disagreeing with his friend's interpretation of his physical symptoms and state.
Juho argues that his body's reaction isn't fondness, but rather a physiological response to intense fear.
Sangdo looks at his friend with a deeply confused expression, unable to follow his strange logic.
Juho explains the effect where people mistakenly attribute fear-induced physical arousal to romantic attraction.
Juho sees a terrifying vision of Jiwoo, insisting his symptoms are just signals of pure terror.
The boy declares he will never cross the line because he is fully aware of fear.
Juho bursts into boisterous laughter, praising his own sharp mind, while Sangdo watches him with pity.
The blonde-haired girl lets out a nervous internal laugh as she wonders if he is actually serious.
Students gather in the academy's bustling cafeteria as the scene settles on a lone girl sitting alone.
Jerem stares down at her tray with an intense, sweaty expression while gripping a metal spoon tightly. The blonde-haired girl remains frozen in a silent, brooding tension as her red eyes narrow with suspicion.
Jiwoo asks Jerem what is wrong, while the startled blonde girl can only respond with a confused pask.
Jiwoo explains she is just trying to eat lunch together, but Jerem shouts back that is exactly the problem.
Jerem demands to know why she is suddenly being friendly, certain there is a hidden motive behind it.
Jiwoo stares back with wide eyes and a blank expression while holding a small bite of food.
A soft, wet slurp sounds as Jiwoo mischievously licks her thumb while her face flushes with heat.
In a brief flashback, Jiwoo is seen laughing happily while walking through the hallway with two female friends. Jiwoo suddenly pauses in mid-conversation as something catches her attention from across the busy academy hallway.
Jerem walks through the crowd of students while focused entirely on studying the notebook in her hand.
The blonde-haired girl looks ahead with a sharp, analytical gaze as she navigates through the academy students.
A quick sudden stop sounds as Jiwoo halts in her tracks after spotting the girl walking past.
Jiwoo's friends ask her what she is doing as she turns her back to them in curious silence.
A wide and knowing smile spreads across Jiwoo's face as she comes to a secret, internal realization.
Jiwoo giggles as she apologizes to her friends, telling them she will eat with them next time instead. The black-haired girl blushes while claiming she forgot she already had other lunch plans for the day. Jerem stands with her back and a bottle of soda, looking serious and ready for any challenge. Back in the present, Jerem sits across from Jiwoo with an incredibly grumpy and distrustful facial expression. A soft, satisfied yum sounds as Jiwoo eats her lunch happily while ignoring the heavy tension at the table.
Jerem stares intensely at the other girl before finally preparing to speak her mind about the situation.
Jerem asks if they are eating together because Jiwoo wants to get closer, and Jiwoo simply agrees.
A tight, firm squeeze sounds as Jerem clenches her fist, thinking to herself about the strange woman's behavior.
A rhythmic, low trembling sounds as Jerem grows furious, wondering if the girl is just mocking her now.
Jerem recalls a past threat to get rid of her and questions why Jiwoo suddenly wants friendship.
Jerem's eye twitches as she admits to herself that this entire confusing situation is driving her crazy.
Jiwoo smiles while resting her chin on her hands, leaving Jerem unable to read her intentions at all.
A specialized ability called the Observing Eye allows Jerem to perceive hidden traits and secrets about everyone.
Jerem's analytical gaze stems from an extreme caution and a compulsive obsession with gaining a psychological edge.
The ability proves effective as Jerem identifies background students as pretentious, scheming, simple-minded, or having multiple boyfriends. Jerem analyzes Nam Juho, noting he is gullible yet intelligent, has a temper, and owns a pet cat.
The blonde-haired girl always felt absolute confidence in her ability to maintain a relative advantage over any person.
The screen of Jerem's mind fills with static and question marks as she encounters a total information blackout. Jiwoo appears surrounded by danger signs and question marks, proving to be an entirely unreadable and unknown entity.
In her 18 years of life, Jerem realizes that Yo Jiwoo represents a level of danger she never expected.
The blonde-haired girl trembles in shock as she encounters a person her analytical eye cannot process at all.
A massive, terrifying eye looms over Jareem as she recognizes Jiwoo as a truly unknown and unpredictable entity.
For the very first time in her life, Jareem experiences a deep and genuine feeling of pure fear.
A sharp, sudden snap sounds as Jiwoo clicks her fingers right in front of the dazed girl's face.
Jiwoo snaps Jareem back to reality, curiously asking her where her mind had just wandered off to now.
Jareem lets out a quick, startled gasp as she finally breaks out of her deep internal state of panic.
Jiwoo insists she truly wants to be friends despite the various troubles they have had in the past.
The black-haired girl smiles warmly while expressing her belief that they could have an amazing relationship together.
Jareem looks back with a cold and sweating face, stating she believes such a friendship will be difficult.
Jiwoo leans in with a sudden and intense determination, telling the blonde girl that she is absolutely sure.
Jiwoo blushes with a wide grin while reminding the other girl that they share a big secret together.
A soft, sliding rustle sounds as Jiwoo leans closer to whisper something directly into the blonde girl's ear.
Jiwoo whispers Nam Juho's name and asks Jareem if she likes him, sending the girl into a panic.
Jareem's face turns bright red with absolute shock as her heart races from the unexpected and personal question.
Jareem's eye widens in absolute shock as she desperately hopes the girl's words aren't true.
Jiwoo smiles with a mischievous, blushing face as she dares Jareem to answer her question.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Jareem's mouth hangs open, completely lost for any words.
A low, rhythmic hiss sounds from Jareem's red, steaming face as Jiwoo casually calls her name.
Jiwoo leans in to whisper a challenge, suggesting they settle their differences with a high-stakes bet.
An illustration of the sun and wind competition appears, setting the stage for Jiwoo's proposed game.
Jiwoo points upward while explaining that Nam Juho will be the traveler in their upcoming contest.
Jiwoo declares that the winner is whoever makes Juho say those 3 special words first.
Jareem reacts with explosive outrage, questioning why she should ever agree to such a ridiculous proposal.
Jiwoo promises to disappear from both their lives forever if the blonde girl manages to win. The black-haired girl pauses thoughtfully, leaving the consequences of her own victory hanging in the air. Jiwoo grins widely, suggesting they simply return to normal if she is the one who triumphs.
The blonde-haired girl remains frozen in stunned silence while processing the strange terms of the offer. Jareem stares back with a sweating, dazed expression, unable to comprehend the logic behind the game.
A loud, resonant thud sounds as Jareem slams her hand down, rejecting the other girl's nonsense.
Jareem stands up and declares she won't listen to another word of the pointless conversation anymore. The blonde-haired girl walks away with her tray, telling Jiwoo to stop involving others in her games.
Jiwoo watches in silence as Jareem turns her back and officially announces she is leaving. A soft, dismissive humph sounds from Jiwoo as a small, knowing smirk forms on her face.
Jiwoo calls out to her retreating back, mockingly asking if she is just chickening out now. A sharp, sudden snap sounds as Jareem stops in her tracks with a look of pure fury. Jareem spins around and leans in close, fiercely denying that she is afraid of any stupid challenge. Jareem aggressively agrees to humor the game just this once, since she has nothing to lose. The blonde-haired girl walks away laughing to herself about the pathetic nature of the whole situation.
Jiwoo looks toward the viewer with a satisfied, blushing smile as she reflects on the exchange.
A simple thought bubble notes that the 2 girls are actually much more alike than they realize. The scene shifts to an office where 2 male staff members watch someone with surprised, blushing faces.
A scarred older man with glasses introduces the newest instructor who will be joining their academy.
The senior staff member asks everyone in the room to welcome their new colleague with open hearts.
A sharp, rhythmic clack sounds as the new teacher steps forward and offers a polite greeting.
Nameri introduces herself as the new Korean language instructor and expresses her excitement for the job. The short-haired woman takes a sip of coffee while looking confident in her professional new environment. In a flashback, a young Namiri looks exhausted while pushing herself to the limit during school.
To stay awake while studying, she used to painfully stab the back of her hand with a pen.
Her extreme dedication eventually led her to enter the nation's top university as the highest-ranked student. Namiri maintained her top position throughout college, eventually graduating as valedictorian and passing all her exams. Her impressive skills led to a scouting offer from a top-tier academy, launching her successful teaching career.
Time passes as Nameri stands alone in a high-rise office looking out over the city lights.
She reflects on her status as a wealthy, self-made woman who has achieved the ultimate dream.
Nameri sighs while sipping her drink, her expression showing a hint of hidden melancholy or regret.
A sudden wet splash sounds as her coffee cup slips and crashes onto the floor below. The woman trembles in a state of pure panic as she realizes things aren't going as planned.
She reveals her true ideal was never career success, but rather getting married to a perfect man.
Her academic choices were based entirely on statistics showing her department had the highest marriage rates. Nameri explains she only saved massive amounts of money to ensure her future husband faced no burden. Despair takes over as she realizes she is already 29 and still hasn't found her partner.
Her eyes widen in horror at the thought of her lifelong dream finally being completely shattered.
Nameri clenches her face in agony, desperately vowing that she will get married within this year.
Back in the present, the scarred senior staff member discusses Nameri's role as an assistant teacher.
The man assigns Nameri to Science Class 1 while she listens with a deeply suspicious, grumpy face.
Nameri's eyes narrow as she reflects on Chumsong Academy, the country's largest prep academy.
The teacher dreams of meeting a man of destiny to increase her chances of finding a husband.
Nameri looks completely distressed as a voice interrupts her thoughts to ask if she is listening.
A shadowed staff member explains that Science Class 1 has the highest grades and requires care.
The superior warns Nameri to be cautious because any class problems could have massive external repercussions.
Nameri nervously agrees while privately wondering why her new boss has such a terrifying dark appearance.
A soft splash sounds in the restroom as Nameri judges her superior for probably being single.
The woman sighs dejectedly while sitting on the toilet, doubting she will find a partner here.
A heavy thud sounds followed by strange hissing as Nameri's quiet moment is interrupted by Jarim.
A sharp click sounds as Jarim's hand turns on the faucet and water begins rushing out.
Jarim leans over the sink in distress, wondering how much more she will have to endure.
The blonde girl's face turns red with rage as she thinks about being treated like nothing.
Jarim repeatedly kicks the pipes while screaming about her outrage over Jiwoo's insulting and effortless challenge.
A soft, startled gasp sounds as Jarim realizes her angry outburst might have been overheard nearby.
A quick, sudden spin sounds as the blonde girl checks the stalls to see if anyone watched.
Jarim exhales in relief, thankful the restroom seems empty and she didn't humiliate herself in public.
Nameri peeks out from the stall door with a shocked expression after witnessing Jarim's wild behavior.
The teacher wonders what she is doing as she finds herself hiding and watching the student.
Jarim admits Jiwoo is pretty but argues that winning a heart requires more than just looks.
A sharp, dry snap sounds as Jarim claims she only cares about taking Juho's clothes off.
Jarim vows to be the one who takes them off first, leaving Nameri absolutely horrified.
Nameri hides behind the door, unable to comprehend the scandalous nature of the student's bizarre conversation.
Jarim stands in the mirror with her blonde hair framing her determined and intensely focused expression.
A soft, quick click sounds as Jarim snaps her glasses into place before deciding to take the challenge. The blonde girl questions if the challenge is worth trying, reaching a silent and internal decision.
Jarim walks away from the sink while quietly confirming her resolve to see the challenge through.
Nameri peeks through the door with a red, sweating face, stunned by the student's insane claims. A loud, sharp bang sounds as the restroom door swings open and students enter while gossiping.
Nameri's eye widens as the entering students startle her, causing her to freeze in panicked silence.
A sudden, loud pop sounds as Nameri scampers away before the other students can identify her.
The students marvel at the mysterious, doll-like beauty of the woman who just ran past them.
Nameri sits dejectedly in the stall, deeply curious about the identity of the blonde student's rival.
Nameri reviews the student attendance records and identifies the blonde girl as Min Jarim from Science Class 1.
The teacher notes that Jarim looked average in photos but is strikingly pretty in real life.
Nameri lets out a thoughtful hum while a vein on her neck twitches from her growing irritation.
The woman's face contorts in a terrifying rage as she decides to turn her professional hysteria on.
Nameri is disgusted that a repeat student would flirt instead of dedicating her entire life to studying.
The senior staff member reminds Nameri that she must be extra thorough in guiding these specific students.
A soft, sinister grin sounds as Nameri accepts the task with a dark and malicious smile.
Sitting in the stall, Nameri vows to guide her students with a truly terrifying and wide-eyed expression.
A professional poster introduces Nameri as the inevitable and top-ranked Korean language instructor in the industry.
A large crowd of students gathers around the advertisement, buzzing with excitement over the new teacher. Students gossip about Nameri's arrival at the academy while Juho looks on with a skeptical face.
Juho adjusts his glasses while looking at the name Nameri with a confused and doubtful expression.
Nameri's career success is detailed, noting she became the nation's hottest instructor in just 1 year.
Juho remains silent and annoyed while other students around him express their extreme excitement and urgency.
Jiwoo excitedly asks Juho if he plans to apply for the special lecture with the new teacher.
The black-haired girl expresses her own interest and invites Juho to sign up for the lecture together.
Juho looks back at Jiwoo with a tired and grumpy expression, clearly uninterested in the proposal. The boy flatly rejects the offer, stating firmly that he has no intention of applying for the lecture.
The black-haired girl grins widely and loudly declares she won't apply for the lecture either.
Juho shouts that he changed his mind and is applying now, so Jiwoo cheerily says she should apply too. But when Juho decides to skip it, she happily agrees not to do it either.
A sharp, sudden snap sounds as Juho snaps in frustration, questioning why she is matching her decisions with his.
The black-haired girl happily mentions they can join study groups and stay after class to study.
Jiwoo smiles sweetly, explaining she wants to match him so their bet will be fair.
Juho blushes and adjusts his glasses, skeptically wondering when she ever started caring about fairness.
A devious, blushing smile spreads across Jiwoo's face as she notes that if he doesn't win fairly,
a soft, quick nudge sounds as Jiwoo laughs and leans in, teasing him about complaining later.
A red-faced Juho shouts back, asking who would complain and stating that even if it's not fair, she'll still.
Jiwoo suddenly looms over Juho with a triumphant grin and caught him off guard once again. The girl's eyes widen as she mockingly asks if she truly doesn't have to be fair.
Jiwoo adopts a terrifyingly intense expression, warning Juho not to regret his words later on.
A low, frustrated groan sounds as a dark shadow falls over the black-haired girl's face.
The narrator notes that Jiwoo is actually quite frightening when she gets into this intense mood.
Juho tells her no one will disagree and asks for a clean and fair bet, which Jiwoo accepts with a happy agreement.
From around a hallway corner, the blonde-haired Jirim secretly watches the two interact with jealousy. A sharp, tight creak sounds as Jirim clutches the wall, thinking she cannot stand the situation.
Jirim reflects on how much time the two spent together compared to her brief evening sessions.
A close-up reveals Jirim's red, sweating eye as she finds the entire situation extremely unfair.
Jiwoo stands confidently in her pink jacket, ready for whatever challenges the day brings.
Students crowd the hallway as the clock strikes 4:30 p.m. before the special orientation begins.
A large lecture hall fills up with students for Nameri's highly anticipated Korean language orientation.
Juho sits at his desk with his arms crossed, looking focused and slightly skeptical.
The boy decides to listen to the orientation first before committing to the full lecture. Juho notes he will listen to the orientation first and then decide, while Jiwoo repeats the exact same sentiment with a laugh.
Juho asks how she found out about the class and got interested, noting she doesn't seem like the type for online lectures.
Jiwoo excitedly explains she heard from a friend that this teacher apparently buys tons of food during class.
A montage shows various desserts, noting the teacher even bought mango shaved ice last summer.
The girl laughs while imagining eating delicious treats during class instead of just studying.
Juho stares back with a deadpan, unimpressed expression at her food-motivated reasoning.
Juho informs her that starting this year, it is forbidden to buy food for the academy's students.
Jiwoo's face turns pale and blank in shock as her sugary dreams are ruthlessly crushed.
Juho asks if she is applying just for food and calls her shallow with a dismissive clicking sound.
Jirim stands nearby with a messy bun and glasses, looking incredibly flustered and overwhelmed.
Juho asks Jirim if she has a problem or a question while Jiwoo watches from the background.
A soft, rapid whir sounds as Jirim waves her hands frantically in total embarrassment.
The black-haired boy looks at her with a confused expression and tells her to just say what it is.
Jirim finally screams at him, asking if he could please move out of the way.
Juho looks back with a bewildered expression, questioning why he should have to do that.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Jiwoo reaches out and firmly grabs onto Juho's shoulder.
Jiwoo pulls Juho back while telling him that Jirim is trying her best.
The black-haired girl offers to move aside so Jirim can take the seat next to Zhao.
Juho's face turns bright red as he finds himself caught between the two competing girls.
A sudden, loud pop sounds as the classroom is startled by a quick, energetic movement.
A sharp, rhythmic clack sounds as Nameri walks toward the podium with her headset on.
A soft, heavy thud sounds as Nameri takes her place at the front of the classroom.
The instructor greets everyone and introduces herself as Nameri from the Inevitable Korean program. The teacher calls for the orientation to begin while the students marvel at how she is even more beautiful in person.
A soft, quick swish sounds as Nameri narrows her eyes and prepares to start her lecture.
Jirim, Juho, and Jiwoo all sit in the same row, reacting with mixed emotions.
Close-up of Nameri's narrowed eye as she recognized the three students she observed earlier.
Nameri stands at the podium, looking down with a somber and professional air before starting.
The instructor's focused gaze is revealed in a tight shot as she adjusts her headset.
Nameri moves dynamically across the stage, holding lecture notes and aiming a bright green laser. The large lecture hall is filled with students as Nameri points her laser at the ceiling. A profile shot shows Nameri speaking passionately into her microphone with a very determined expression.
Jirim hides her face in shame while Juho looks bored and Jiwoo watches with curiosity.
The trio sits in the audience as Nameri continues, each reacting with their own distinct mood. Juho looks away with a blank face, concluding that the orientation is a waste of time.
From behind, the black-haired boy reflects that Nameri's teaching style is completely unsuitable for his needs.
Juho looks at a paper, noting that the popular class is simply not helpful for him.
The boy sighs dismissively, feeling that the lecture offers no value to someone at the top.
Juho checks his phone, seeing it is 4:40 p.m. with 20 long minutes of orientation left.
Juho starts writing in his book while a rhythmic, sharp tap sounds from his pen movements.
Jiwoo scolds him for being disrespectful, but Juho finds her lecture on respect to be hilariously ironic.
A sudden, quick swish sounds as Juho explains that staying silent feels like wasting his precious time.
Nameri suddenly appears behind Jirim and Juho, looking down at them with an incredibly stern expression.
The instructor notes that studying Korean workbooks would have at least provided him with a valid excuse. A close-up reveals Nameri's intense stare as she exposes that he is actually solving math problems.
Nameri sternly orders Namjuho to follow her to her office once the current orientation finishes.
Jiwoo gasps in shock and worry after witnessing her friend get called out by the teacher. A stylized image shows Nameri in traditional attire, reflecting her esteemed status as a language expert. The scene shifts to the exterior of Nameri's personal office, setting the stage for the confrontation.
Juho stands submissively in the office and offers a blunt, direct apology for his earlier behavior.
Nameri sits regally in her armchair, observing the black-haired boy with a silent and calculating look.
The instructor's face is calm as she notes that she hasn't even begun her reprimand yet. A thought bubble details Juho's admission of disrespecting her by solving math equations during the lecture.
Juho stands before Nameri's desk and promises to never repeat such an insulting action again.
Nameri lets out a thoughtful hum while considering the student's apology with a very skeptical expression. The instructor asks the boy if he truly understands the disrespectful nature of his recent actions.
Nameri remarks on his reputation as the academy's most brilliant, yet unfortunately the rudest student.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Nameri claims to understand why his judgment has become clouded.
Nameri mentions rumors about the top student being distracted by things completely unrelated to his studies.
A sharp, sudden click sounds as Nameri crosses her legs, discussing how hormones impact youthful judgment.
A sharp, quick snap sounds as Nameri looms closer, insisting he needs adult guidance to focus.
Nameri reveals her new role as his assistant homeroom teacher while returning his confiscated math workbook.
Juho acknowledges his poor judgment, but argues that he finds her entire class far too elementary.
The black-haired boy maintains that continuing the orientation was simply not worth his precious time.
Nameri stares in utter disbelief as Juho reaffirms that he wouldn't have studied math if interested.
The instructor leans in close and asks if he truly believes he is academically superior to her.
Juho stares back with a defiant expression and confirms that he indeed believes he is better.
Nameri stands in silence, her face darkening with rage as she processes the student's arrogant admission.
The instructor gives 2 thumbs up with a smug and incredibly condescending smile on her face.
A loud, sudden bang sounds as the office doors fly open with a very forceful impact.
A rhythmic, heavy thud sounds as a group of massive, muscular assistants marches into the room. The office fills with several intimidating tall men wearing white shirts and looking extremely determined.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Nameri points at an assistant, questioning his specific academic credentials.
The first assistant shouts his impressive background, including a master's degree from a prestigious university.
Multiple muscular assistants yell out their high-level degrees and elite academic histories to intimidate Juho.
Nameri stands proudly before her team, explaining that her materials result from their collective expertise. Nameri asks Juho if he truly believes he is academically superior to her entire team of experts.
The black-haired boy stands silently while keeping his hands in his pockets and holding his workbook.
The muscular assistants scream insults at Juho, calling him an arrogant brat for repeating a school year.
A close-up shows Nameri smiling condescendingly while a single drop of sweat rolls down her cheek.
The instructor admits she is dumbfounded but praises the boy for his rare boldness and confidence.
Nameri leans in close and offers Juho a chance to prove himself at her private academy.
Juho bluntly refuses her offer, prompting the assistants to demand they teach the brat some manners.
A sharp, silent shh sounds as Nameri raises a finger to her lips to quiet her tear.
Nameri pivots, asking Juho to simply help her proofread a new workbook for a generous reward.
A soft, quick swish sounds as Juho turns away and refuses to help due to his schedule. Juho stops abruptly, his eyes widening in total shock as he spots something on the desk.
The boy stares intensely at a dark folder sitting next to a laptop in the office.
A close-up reveals the folder is titled Sorrow and Joy in bold, white English lettering.
Juho is visibly shaken, sweating profusely as he realizes the significance of the item before him.
Nameri catches his reaction and smiles triumphantly, noting that he has finally recognized the legendary material. The instructor explains it is the legendary mock exam and offers it as a reward for proofreading.
Juho reflects on the exam's reputation for perfectly mimicking the difficulty of the real college entrance tests.
A tight shot of the boy's trembling eye reveals his intense desire for the rare study material. Juho stares at the Sorrow and Joy folder, questioning if such a mythic item actually exists.
Nameri whispers into Juho's ear, telling him to arrive at her private academy this coming Saturday.
The instructor grips Juho's shoulder, promising he can become the owner of the legendary exam.
Jiwoo sits hunched over in her pink jacket, her long black hair completely obscuring her face.
The black-haired girl remains motionless and silent, casting an eerie and somber mood over the room.
A sharp, focused gaze is revealed as Jiwoo peers out from behind her thick black bangs.
A loud, sudden slap sounds as Jiwoo bursts upward, shouting to Jarim that they need a truce.
Jarim looks annoyed while asking what Jiwoo is talking about, clearly uninterested in her sudden emergency.
Jiwoo frantically explains that she sensed something dangerous happening between the teacher and Juho.
Jarim adjusts her glasses and asks for a specific explanation of what she means by dangerous.
Jiwoo admits she has no idea what it is, causing Jarim to look on with pure frustration.
The black-haired girl insists her gut feeling is never wrong and she is sure that.
Jarim sighs dismissively, finding Jiwoo's reliance on vague feelings to be completely ridiculous and unhelpful.
Jiwoo argues that instincts are just the brain processing information faster than conscious awareness can follow. A close-up of Jiwoo's pink eye emphasizes her absolute trust in her own powerful intuition.
Jarim stares back with a blank and skeptical expression, unimpressed by the girl's philosophical explanation.
The blonde girl flatly refuses to be dragged into the situation and tells Jiwoo to handle it.
Jiwoo hums thoughtfully while observing Jerem, her pink eye reflecting a calculating and curious mind.
Jiwoo gives 2 thumbs up and cheerfully wishes Jareem good luck as she accepts her refusal.
Jareem reflects on the situation, admitting to herself that she also noticed something odd about the teacher. A flashback shows Namiri identifying Juho's math workbook during the special orientation earlier that day.
The memory continues as Numeri identifies Juho by name and orders him to follow her after class. Jareem recalls her shock at the teacher knowing Juho's name despite him being a new student.
The blonde girl reflects on the strange and unsettling feeling she experienced during the special lecture.
A split shot highlights the intense, suspicious eye contact shared between Numeri and the observing Jareem. Jareem wonders if Jaru actually sensed a real problem or was just guessing with her instincts. A close-up shows the blonde girl remaining silent while she processes her own growing suspicions. A sudden, sharp snap sounds as Jareem decides she would rather succeed on her own than help. A sharp, quick tap sounds as Jareem pulls out her phone to take matters into her hands.
Jareem texts Hong Tae-yang for help, determined to beat her rival through her own independent efforts.
A stylized image shows Jareem dressed in ornate royal attire, reflecting her ambitious and competitive spirit. Juho stares down at his blue math workbook with a dark, intense, and incredibly focused expression. Jiwoo confronts Juho in the hallway, frantically questioning him about his secret plans.
The black-haired girl asks if he wants to meet and study together this Saturday.
A sudden quick swish sounds as Juho refuses, telling her not to make it a habit.
Jiwoo leans in with glowing pink eyes, intensely demanding to know what his plans are.
A rhythmic, heavy thud sounds as Juho walks away.
A collage shows Juho blushing while Jiwoo suggests Sunday, followed by him stopping with a gasp.
The black-haired boy looks back with suspicion as Jiwoo looms behind him in the hallway.
A loud, sudden thud sounds as Jiwoo kicks Juho from behind, causing him to sweat. Jiwoo pins Juho against the wall with her legs, surprising the black-haired boy with her strength. The girl demands a fair bat with no objections while her face remains hidden and chatting. A close-up of Jiwoo's pink eye emphasizes her claim that they should not hide secrets. Jiwoo maintains her aggressive pose, demanding the honest reason why they cannot meet this weekend. Juho's eye twitches nervously behind his glasses as he struggles to maintain his composure. The boy agrees to talk but asks her to move her leg away first.
Jiwoo suspiciously asks if he will run, but Juho indignantly asks who she thinks he is.
Top, the confrontation continues. Bottom, an intense, stylized close-up highlights the tension between their focused eyes.
Jiwoo grabs Juho's shirt as he pleads for her to stop stretching his clothes.
The black-haired boy looks utterly distressed while wondering how he can possibly explain the situation.
Juho sweats profusely, terrified that telling her the truth will only lead to more trouble.
Jiwoo stares blankly at her friend and repeats her question about why he is busy.
Juho panics as he realizes he might accidentally reveal the legendary mock exam to his rival.
A large, sudden speech bubble appears in the hallway, announcing that someone else requested his time.
Namiri appears in the distance, watching as a relieved and sweaty Juho looks toward her.
The instructor explains that she commanded the boy to attend her private academy this coming weekend.
Jiwoo looks at Juho with pure suspicion, asking why he would ever go there.
A rhythmic, sharp tap sounds as Namiri walks past, claiming he is going there to study.
A sudden, soft thud sounds as Namiri puts her arm around Juho to explain her motives.
Namiri smiles at the shocked girl, noting that she welcomes feedback from the academy's top student.
The instructor hums thoughtfully while touching her chin and observing the 2 young students. Namiri points at Jiwo, inviting the second-best student to also attend her academy this weekend.
Namiri explains that feedback from 2 elite students is better and promises them a reward.
Juho is horrified, realizing the instructor might reveal the secret exam if his rival accepts.
A close-up of Namira's mouth shows her listing rewards like online subscriptions and covered fees.
The instructor offers to waive all tuition, asking the girl if it is a good deal. Namiri claims Juho accepted the offer willingly, causing the boy to look away in discomfort. The instructor turns her attention back to the black-haired girl, asking for her final decision.
Juho sweats while Jiwoo observes him with an intense, calculated gaze from the background.
Jiwoo smiles with a dark and competitive expression, accepting the challenge to join the academy. The scene shifts back to Namiri's office, where she sits regally with her legs crossed.
An assistant named Johnson bows deeply, unable to comprehend the instructor's strange decision.
Johnson rants about having to face the disrespectful brat again while blushing with hidden passion. The massive assistant demands an explanation from Namiri while the other muscular men look on.
Assistant Siam yells at Johnson for daring to question the instructor's perfect and absolute judgment.
The 2 massive assistants headbutt each other while trading insults and defending their instructor's honor. Namiri closes her eyes and leans back, clearly exhausted by the loud bickering of her team. A rhythmic, sharp tap sounds as Namiri stands up to address her blushing assistant, Johnson.
A sharp, silent shh sounds as Namiri promises to explain her plan just one time.
2 bubbles describe the arrogant boy and the strange girl who is always stuck to him. Namiri reveals she has confirmed there is a special relationship between the two top students.
Namiri explains that as their homeroom teacher, she has a duty to properly guide the academy's top 2 students.
The instructor asks Johnson what the best way is to prevent her students from going down a wrong path.
Johnson clenches his fists while suggesting they should be forcibly separated through threats and a show of violence.
Namiri stares at her assistant with an unimpressed and weary expression while Siam observes from the background.
The instructor explains the plan is to keep them close by bringing them to her academy on the weekends.
Namiri smiles deviously while admitting that monitoring the top students is merely a convenient excuse for her.
A large bubble reveals her true intent is to use Juho and Jiwo for marketing her own academy.
The instructor believes having the top-ranked students attend her school will attract a flood of new male enrollments. Namiri celebrates her win-win plan to use the students as strategic tools for raising her academy's brand value.
Johnson stands frozen in total shock, sweating as he finally realizes the depth of the instructor's cold business strategy.
A sharp, silent shh sounds as Johnson clutches his head, unable to process his intense surge of emotion.
A loud, sudden splash sounds as Johnson begins crying hysterically, deeply moved by Namiri's brilliant and calculating mind.
Johnson falls to his knees in a deep bow, apologizing for doubting his instructor's profound and perfect intentions.
The assistant offers his resignation out of shame, but Namiri flatly tells him to stop being so dramatic.
A rhythmic, heavy thud sounds as Johnson continues weeping and pounding the floor in his exaggerated state of despair.
Siam stands tall with his hands behind his back, looking down at the massive man crying on the floor. The red-capped man shouts that a man's knees should only ever touch the ground when he is proposing.
Siam commands Johnson to use his tears as fuel to grow into a true man while demanding he understand.
Johnson looks up with streams of tears running down his face and emotionally calls Siam his brother.
The 2 muscular men share a sobbing, sniff-filled hug while Namiri watches the ridiculous scene with pure disbelief.
Namiri massages her temples in frustration, wondering how her assistant became such an overly emotional and dramatic person. A rhythmic, sharp ring sounds as the academy clock hits 10 p.m., announcing the end of the day.
Juho notices his friend is still at her desk and asks if she is staying late again.
A sudden quick swish sounds as Jiwoo spots the blonde girl packing her bags in the background.
Juho suggests inviting Jarim to join them this Saturday since she is also a member of their group.
The boy internally panics, realizing more people increases the risk of someone discovering his secret mock exam.
Jiwoo ignores his protests and insists that she wants to ask the blonde girl to come along. Jiwoo walks away to confront her friend, leaving Juho to wonder why she even bothered asking his opinion.
The black-haired girl cheerfully invites Jarim to study together at instructor Namiri's private academy this coming Saturday.
A sharp, silent shh sounds as Jarim stops packing and grips her black bag with sudden tension.
Jarim turns around with a cold gaze, stating she finally understands the source of her constant discomfort.
The blonde girl accuses Jiwoo of only pretending to be a friend while acting out of pure self-interest.
A large, sudden bubble emphasizes Jarim's blunt claim that her rival does not care about her at all.
The 2 girls stand in a tense standoff in the middle of the classroom while Juho watches them. Jarim claims that Jiwoo views people as mere tools for entertainment and lacks any concern for their well-being.
A close-up of Jarim's red eye highlights her intense anger at being treated like a toy by others.
Jiwoo stares back with wide, stunned pink eyes, seemingly paralyzed by the harsh and unexpected verbal assault.
Jarim declares she intends to win their bet and demands that Jiwoo never approach her ever again.
The blonde girl looks down with a cold expression, trusting that her rival will keep her original promise.
Jarim walks out of the silent classroom, leaving a motionless Jiwoo standing alone between the rows of desks.
Juho approaches his friend with a look of concern, asking about the heavy atmosphere following the tense confrontation.
The black-haired girl remains still, her back to Juho as she processes the stinging words of her rival.
Jiwoo turns around with a devastated, tearful expression and asks if she is actually a super unlikable person.
The girl frantically wonders why she can't get along with anyone and even questions if she smells bad.
Juho stares at her with a blank, unreadable expression as he prepares to give his own honest assessment.
Juho leans in with a focused gaze, bluntly telling her that she really is the type who irritates people.
Jarim stands alone outside the academy at night, illuminated by the glow of her phone as she waits.
The blonde girl looks up with a weary expression, noticing that her contact has finally arrived at the meeting.
Hong Tae-yang greets her with a wide grin, asking if a face-to-face meeting was really necessary for their talk. A close-up of Tae-young's sharp teeth and long tongue emphasizes his insistence that meeting in person is better.
The reddish-haired boy grins with sharp teeth while claiming things are simply more fun that way.
Top, the black-haired boy focuses on his notes. Bottom, the blonde girl secretly views his plans.
Jiwoo remains intensely focused on a small red object while the narrative pauses on her actions.
The scene shifts to a morning cityscape as the narrative announces that Saturday has finally arrived.
A sharp rhythmic top sounds as the black-haired girl continues to focus on her red pen.
At 7:23 a.m., Juho prepares for the day by packing his school supplies into a black bag.
Top, a sudden low buzz sounds as a phone vibrates on the desk. Bottom, Juho looks startled.
A chat window shows Jiwoo sending several messages at midnight to check if her friend is asleep.
Jiwoo asks if he is home and suggests meeting early to study before the academy session begins.
On the morning of Saturday, April 29th, the girl sends a message announcing she is finally awake.
Juho stares blankly at his smartphone screen, seemingly overwhelmed by the early morning messages from his friend.
By 7:58 a.m., the boy stands before the tall academy building, ready to face the long day.
Juho looks exhausted and notes that he has managed to arrive 4 full hours before the scheduled time.
A soft mechanical hum sounds as Juho stands alone in the quiet hallway of the private academy.
The boy walks toward a desk where a person with long black hair is sitting with their back turned.
The figure remains perfectly still at the desk, their long hair cascading down as they work in silence.
Juho stops and observes the mysterious person with a confused and slightly nervous expression while sweating profusely.
The person asks if he is Nam Juho, causing the boy to jump with a startled and sweaty reaction.
Juho nervously confirms his identity while adjusting his backpack and looking at the seated person with uncertainty.
The seated woman points the way, instructing the boy to go straight ahead to find the director's office.
Juho thanks her for the directions, noting her kindness while he prepares to head deeper into the academy.
The woman returns to her work, remaining silent as the boy begins to walk away toward the office.
A sudden muffled snicker sounds, making Juho pause and wonder what is happening behind him in the hallway.
A sudden heavy thud sounds as Juho bumps into a large object, causing him to let out a gasp. The boy looks up in shock at a massive, muscular man standing directly in his path with boxes.
A sharp, dry rasp sounds as the muscular man glares at Juho and criticizes his nerve for appearing.
The assistant threatens Juho, but Nameri suddenly kicks the man and commands him to stop the nonsense.
The instructor apologizes for the mess and invites the boy to wait inside the director's office for her.
Juho stands silently with a blank expression, processing the sudden and violent outburst from the academy staff members.
Juho offers to help carry a box, prompting a surprised and impressed reaction from the academy's lead instructor.
The assistant insults the boy's strength, but Nameri reminds Byung-chul that he was once a weakling too. The assistant cries over his past while the instructor explains she trains all her staff into proper humans.
Nameri pokes Juho's arm, noting his surprisingly dense muscles and questioning if he has a natural talent.
The instructor leans in with excitement, suggesting that they should build up his body together at her academy.
Juho nervously notes that his life feels in danger as the muscular assistant glares at him with murderous intent.
Nameri admits she cannot guarantee his safety since many other students are also eager to confront him today.
The instructor smirks while telling the boy he has walked into the tiger's den of his own free will.
A massive, roaring tiger looms over Juho as Nameri warns him about the consequences of his past arrogance.
A large speech bubble delivers a chilling warning that the boy will be eaten alive in this place.
Nameri is depicted as a fierce tiger queen, emphasizing the predatory and intense atmosphere of her private academy.
The instructor offers a deal for protection and a future job if the boy joins her team now. Juho looks down with a cold and determined gaze, firmly stating that such a deal will not be necessary.
The boy carries the box away, declaring he arrived voluntarily and will leave on his own 2 feet. Nameri watches him walk away, admiring his youthful spirit and noting that it is overflowing with intense energy. The instructor wonders if Juho's defiance is mere bravado or the result of real ability as her assistants watch. Juho sits at the head of a table surrounded by a group of massive and intimidating muscular men. Nameri rests her chin on her hands and smirks confidently while observing the boy from across the table. A sudden, light rustle sounds as Juho opens a thick textbook sample to begin reviewing the study materials. The instructor points to a laptop and asks the boy to provide feedback on her upcoming lecture textbook.
Nameri claims her work is perfect, but welcomes his criticism as Juho begins to read through the material. A close-up reveals Nameri's calculating eyes as she prepares to expose her deceptive test.
Juho's chin is visible as he notes the textbook contains problems with intentionally flawed logic.
Nameri grins, wondering if Juho will catch the subtle errors most people would simply overlook. A quick, light tap sounds as Juho sits with the textbook, focused on the material.
Juho rejects the fake textbook, asking for the real one to avoid wasting more time.
Nameri reacts with intense curiosity, wondering what discovery has caught the boy's attention so suddenly.
The tall academy building stands brightly lit under the morning sun as a new day begins.
A sharp, rhythmic tack sounds as a white sneaker steps onto the pavement outside the academy.
Yo Ji-woo stands outside in a pink jacket, her pink eyes glowing with an intense focus.
At 9:56 a.m., Ji-woo looks up, her eyes wide as she checks the current time.
A close-up of Ji-woo's pink eye shows the tall academy building reflected in her gaze.
Nameri stands confidently in her pink athletic top and orange leggings, showing off her physique.
Nameri leans over, panting and sweating while asking Juho if he is truly taking this seriously. Juho stands with a cool, calm expression and confidently asserts that he knows his subject matter.
Juho addresses the seated group, asking if they have any further disagreements with his specific points.
Byung-chul admits Juho's points were valid and improved the textbook, which Nameri already silently acknowledged.
Juho promises that addressing his feedback will increase demand for the Academy's materials among top-tier students.
The massive assistants look frustrated and dejected after a mere student invalidated their hard professional work. A sudden heavy thud sounds as Namiris's knee strikes the floor in a moment of defeat.
In a mental metaphor, Nameri appears as a kneeling tiger girl who realized Juho dominated her.
The metaphor continues with Juho as a traditional swordsman standing victoriously over a pile of tigers.
Juho's swordsman persona looks on coldly, having metaphorically slaughtered every tiger in the den he entered. A sharp mechanical click sounds as Juho collars the tiger girl, overwhelming her despite her status.
Juho commands the girl to lead him to the exams while calling her a damn bitch.
Namiri feels humiliated as her dignity is trampled, yet she notes Juho is the first person.
A wide grin reveals that Juho is the first to ever inflict such profound shame on her.
The metaphor concludes with the blushing tiger girl letting out a soft, submissive meow at her master.
A sharp, rhythmic step sounds as Nameri walks away from her confused assistants in the classroom.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Nameri pulls a graduation album from a shelf in the office.
A sudden, sharp whip sounds as Nameri opens the graduation album to a specific marked page.
Namiri grins while looking at the album page, which is mysteriously titled as a party section.
Juho offers the mock exams as promised, while Nameri leans in to address him more personally.
Nameri offers Juho a part-time job with top treatment after university, but he immediately refuses her.
Nameri begs Juho to reconsider over the next year while he demands she release his shirt.
Sori peers through a dark doorway, her wide eye highlighting a creepy and unsettling observation she made.
Sori calls out to the director, and Nameri turns around to ask what the girl needs.
Sori reports that a young woman has arrived and is currently standing outside in the hallway.
Nameri and Sori look down the long hallway, spotting a distant figure standing near the entrance. Jibu stands alone in the academy hallway, her black hair and pink jacket contrasting the clinical environment.
Namiri wonders why the girl arrived early while Juho asks who is standing in the hallway.
Juho panics upon realizing Yo Jiwoo is there, having expected her to arrive much later at noon. The boy screams in fear, begging Namiri not to let Jiwoo find out he was at the academy. Namiri notes the only exit is the window, leading Juho to curse in frustration at being trapped. Namiri looks at the boy with confusion, wondering why he is suddenly panicking so intensely right now. Namiri wonders where Juho's earlier composure went as he frantically asks himself what he should do. The instructor's gaze narrows as she questions the nature of the relationship between Juho and this girl. Juho begs Namiri to lead the visitor away while she asks what he expects her to do.
Juho agrees to consider the part-time job offer if Namiri will just do something to help him.
Namiri happily agrees to the deal and warns Juho that he had better keep his original promise.
Jibu stands perfectly still, her wide eyes staring forward as she waits in the quiet academy hallway.
Nameri notes that she did not realize Jiwoo would arrive so early and asks her to mate.
The instructor suggests that the girl should wait and study in an empty classroom until class begins.
Jiwoo asks what was happening earlier since it sounded busy, making Nameri wonder why she is asking.
Nameri claims she was only teaching and preparing, questioning why the girl is being so inquisitive now.
Jiwoo asks if the student feedback was helpful, and Nameri confirms she values their specific perspectives.
A sudden cold shock overcomes the instructor as she realizes the girl's growing and intense suspicion.
Jiwoo notes the instructor was preparing with a student, her expression becoming unnervingly sharp and suspicious.
The girl thinks about the instructor working with the student, her eyes glowing with an intense focus.
Jiwoo recalls her appointment to meet Juho at noon and wonders if another student was called separately.
Nameri breaks into a cold sweat while nervously wondering who the girl thinks is currently inside. Jiwoo decides to quickly check who is there, while Nameri panics and tries to stop her.
The girl insists on checking because she has a strong feeling she might know the person inside.
Nameri frantically signals for her staff to stop the girl from passing the office at any cost. Byungchul blocks the path, insisting the girl cannot enter the office and offers another location instead.
A heavy, silent pressure radiates from the girl as she stares down the massive and muscular man. An intense, dark energy fills the girl's gaze as she focuses on the hallway directly ahead.
A sudden, heavy shudder sounds as the massive assistant cowers in fear of the girl's gaze.
Namiri shouts at the girl not to barge in, her face showing visible distress.
The girl walks toward the director's office, determined to uncover the truth of the situation.
A sudden, sharp grip sounds as the girl places her hands on the heavy office doors. A sudden, loud bang sounds as the girl forcefully throws open the director's office doors.
The girl stands in the doorway, her glowing pink eyes scanning the room with great intensity.
A close-up of the girl's eye reveals her intense focus as she searches the entire room.
The assistants sit in silence, shocked by the girl's sudden and forceful entrance into the room.
Jiwoo looks around the room in confusion while Nameri watches her with an angry, frantic expression.
The atmosphere remains tense as the girl observes the silent staff members from the doorway.
Jiwoo confirms that she does not see anyone she knows as she looks around the room.
Nameri scolds the girl for her snooping, but Jiwoo asks why the room appears to be empty.
Jiwoo notes that she only sees teaching assistants and no students, making Nameri react in shock.
A soft, nervous gulp sounds as Nameri struggles to find an explanation for the missing student.
Nameri nervously explains that the term student was being used as a general term for college students.
Sori adds that some assistants are college students currently trying to transfer into a different university.
Sori asks Byung-chul for confirmation, and he nervously stammers out his agreement with her explanation. Sori warns that further disturbances will interfere with their duties and tells the girl to move along.
A sharp, crackling static sounds as a heavy pressure builds between the two young women.
A sudden, sharp intake of breath sounds as the instructor realizes the intensity of the confrontation.
The instructor trembles violently, overwhelmed by the oppressive and terrifying aura filling the quiet room.
Nameri notes an unbelievable amount of dark energy and feels her own power being completely drained.
The two girls face each other in a silent, high-stakes standoff within the clinical academy hallway.
An oppressive, monstrous shadow looms, reflecting the terrifying power hidden within the small young girl.
The girl's pink eyes glow with a fierce light as she stands against the darkness.
A soft, quick lean sounds as the girl moves closer to inspect her mysterious and silent opponent.
A close-up of the girl's eye captures her unwavering and predatory focus on the stranger.
A sudden, subtle shift occurs as the girl's expression changes from cold intensity to a smile.
Jibu smiles and tells the mysterious girl that she is really pretty, breaking the tense atmosphere. The girl cheerfully asks where the empty classroom is located so she can begin her studies. Nameri, looking physically ill from stress, pleads with the girl to just go and study now. Byung-chul leads the girl away down the hallway while Nameri watches them with lingering exhaustion.
Nameri exhales a sigh of relief, noting that the girl is known as the witch for a reason.
The girl walks away into the distance, leaving the staff shaken by her brief presence.
Nameri praises Sori for being a lifesaver and asks if the girl is feeling all right now. Sori giggles, delighted that Jiwoo called her pretty, while Nameri watches her assistant with utter confusion.
A character profile reveals Jong Sori is 26, loves horror media, and absolutely dislikes working.
Nameri searches for Juho, wondering if the boy actually jumped out of the second-story office window. A sudden, low groan sounds as Nameri spots an assistant acting suspiciously near the office lockers. Nameri discovers Juho crammed inside a small locker, and the boy frantically begs her for help. A loud, sharp crunch sounds as the assistants explain they kindly helped the boy hide inside. Juho groans about his aching back while Nameri tells the punk to get up already. The instructor remains silent, her expression unreadable as she watches the boy prepare to leave.
Nameri stops Juho as he walks away, asking to pose one final question to him.
Nameri questions why someone with his intellect failed to enter a top-tier medical school program. Juho looks away with a neutral expression, showing no visible reaction to the personal question. Juho claims he does not know why he failed and simply accepts it as fate. The boy walks down the hallway, asserting that he no longer cares about his past failures. Nameri and her staff watch in silence as Juho continues toward the exit of the academy. Juho pauses at the door, telling Nameri there is just one more thing she should know. Juho warns Nameri to be careful around Jiwoo because her actions are always completely unpredictable. A close-up of Nameri's widened eye captures her surprise at the boy's sudden and serious warning. Nameri laughs off the warning, jokingly suggesting that the boy has been reading too many comics. Jiwoo sits quietly in a classroom while a nervous assistant stands behind the young girl. Byung-chul tells the girl she can study there and to ask if she needs any assistance. The massive assistant attempts to leave the room quickly, looking visibly shaken and sweating profusely. Jiwoo calls the man Oppa, causing him to freeze instantly with a look of pure shock.
A character profile for Go Byung-chul reveals he has never been called Oppa in his life. A sudden soft thud sounds as the count of times he was called Oppa remains 0.
Jiwoo asks if the man can stay and talk for a while because she feels lonely.
Jiwoo flashes a dark grin and calls the man Oppa again, claiming she is bored.
Byung-chul makes incoherent sounds of distress, his face turning a deep, dark red from sheer embarrassment.
Juho walks through the hallway while Byung-chul remains frozen in the classroom doorway in the background. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Criteria Cafe and Coffee Building under a cloudy sky.
Juho sits alone at a cafe table, focused on writing in his notebook during a study session. A rhythmic, scratching sound echoes as Juho continues to write diligently in the quiet cafe. Juho pauses his work, looking down with a thoughtful expression as he contemplates his current situation. Juho's hand holds his phone, showing the time is 11:48 a.m. on Saturday, April 29th. Juho finds it very strange that Juho has not attempted to contact him at all today. A close-up of Juho's face shows his growing concern as he stares at his silent phone. A soft, quick tap sounds as Juho repeatedly checks his phone for any new incoming messages. Juho's eyes widen in sudden realization as a thought crosses his mind while staring at the screen. A close-up of a wide eye reveals Juho's suspicion that there must be a specific reason. Jiwoo sits calmly on a ledge, her expression neutral as she waits in her casual attire.
A sudden sharp ring sounds as the academy desk phone begins to vibrate on the table.
The assistants are overwhelmed by incoming calls, confirming many new enrollment inquiries are flooding the academy.
An assistant reports that phones are ringing off the hook and they might run out of space.
Byungchul excitedly tells Nameri they have already reached their new student enrollment goal for the month.
A sudden, rhythmic clap sounds as the staff celebrates their success and Nameri credits their effort.
Nameri notes that she never expected such a massive and immediate reaction to Juho's textbook improvements.
Nameri triumphantly holds up her card and announces she is treating the entire team to dinner. The assistants cheer loudly, celebrating the team dinner and praising their instructor's extreme generosity and kindness.
Nameri smiles contentedly while her staff continues to chant about the upcoming after-party in the background.
Nameri thinks about her future, deciding she should start considering how to find herself a husband.
Juho leans close to Nameri and tells her she is not properly trained yet, commanding her not to have a single thought without his permission.
A close-up reveals Nameri blushing intensely with heart-shaped eyes while wearing the red collar from her own imagination.
Nameri collapses to the floor in embarrassment, wondering what kind of inappropriate fantasies she is having about her own student.
The assistants rush over in concern, but Nameri hides her face, secretly thinking that despite their age difference, Juho is actually a decent guy. Nameri insists she is fine as the worried staff members surround her and suggests she might need to visit a hospital. Nameri claims she only felt a bit dizzy, privately telling herself that she needs to calm down and pull herself together. A sudden, loud bang sounds as Juho bursts into the room shouting for his teacher, shocking Nameri and the staff. A soft, quick ring sounds as Juho, looking exhausted and sweaty, asks if the lessons have already started for the day.
Nameri stares at the boy in shock while the assistants watch him with suspicious and intense expressions from the background.
Juho suddenly grabs the instructor's hands and frantically asks if she noticed anything strange about Jiwoo while he was away. Juho demands that she think very carefully about even the most trivial details while the muscular assistants loom behind him menacingly.
Namera's face turns bright red as she stares up at Juho in stunned silence, overwhelmed by his sudden and intense proximity.
A sharp crackling static sounds as the two share a silent moment of intense focus before the instructor suddenly pulls away. Nameri turns her attention to Byungchul, demanding to know what he and Jiwoo were doing in the classroom for so long.
Byungchul panics and raises his hands, insisting that they were absolutely just talking to each other for a little while.
Juho asks what they discussed, and the assistant explains they talked about media and that Jiwoo even asked for his social media handle. Juho remains silent, his expression darkening into one of deep suspicion as he processes the information about the girl's actions.
Juho calls out to Nameri, getting her attention with a serious and formal tone as the staff watches the tense interaction.
Juho warns that if his current hypothesis is correct, then both she and the academy are facing a very serious problem.
Nameri sits back in her office chair with a concerned expression, listening intently as the boy prepares to explain the situation.
Juho bluntly tells the instructor that she is completely finished, adding that it would be a real shame for her business. The staff members shout at Juho in a rage, demanding to know why he would dare speak so disrespectfully to his elder. Juho shows them a phone screen and explains that Jiwoo normally never uses social media platforms like Instagram at all. Juho notes that he checked her profile earlier and found she made an account 2 hours ago specifically to make a post.
Juho displays a post where Jiwoo claims she registered at the academy, and Byungchul realizes that is the picture he took.
Juho points out that the single post already has 37,000 likes, which is an astronomical number for a new account.
A soft, rhythmic top sounds as the count continues to climb, showing the post has reached 38,000 likes. Juho asserts that the sudden surge in enrollment inquiries is purely a result of the massive publicity generated by Jiwo's post. Nameri asks why she is in trouble, arguing that getting more students from free publicity should ultimately be a good thing.
Juho points directly at the instructor and tells her that the publicity is precisely the reason she is in danger.
Juho explains that almost every new student only signed up to see Jiwoo, who is now being treated like a celebrity.
A close-up of Juho's eye reveals his intense focus as he poses a hypothetical scenario regarding the girl's future behavior.
The boy asks what would happen to the academy if Jiwoo simply decided to stop attending the lessons starting tomorrow morning.
Nameri remains seated in silence while Juho stands before her, waiting for the weight of his question to sink in fully.
A close-up of Nameris's widened eye captures her sudden realization of the catastrophic consequences of Jiwoo leaving the academy. The instructor's face goes blank with shock as she finally understands the trap that has been set for her business. Juho explains that all the new students will leave immediately and rumors of the academy's failure will spread like a plague.
Juho warns that her entire professional brand and hard-earned reputation are currently at risk of being completely and permanently destroyed.
A sudden heavy crash sounds as a blue arrow labeled Reputation plunges downward, signifying a total and devastating collapse. Nameri screams in a panic, asking why the girl would want to shut them down when she has no reason. Juho suspects Jiwoo noticed him arriving early and believes she thinks they are plotting something behind her back without her knowledge. A rhythmic scratching sound echoes as Juho notes the girl hates being deceived and begins shuffling a deck of cards. Juho visualizes a high-stakes game where he deals one card to Nameri and one for himself as the tension continues rising.
Juho deals the final card to Jiwoo, who sits across from them wearing sunglasses and flanked by two mysterious, dark figures.
Narration notes that while her suspicion was strong, the girl currently has no concrete proof that she is actually being deceived.
Jiwoo flashes a predatory, dark grin at Juho and asks him if he really takes her for some kind of fool.
A sudden, loud slam sounds as Jiwoo stands up to flip the entire table, reflecting her plan to destroy the academy.
The bold text confirms that the girl is planning to upend the entire game and ruin everyone involved in the plot.
Jiwoo laughs triumphantly while cards rain down around her, her pink eyes glowing with a terrifying and monstrous light.
Juho explains that by destroying the academy, she plans to rip the whole situation out by the roots to solve her problem.
Byungchul yells that Juho's theory is nonsense, while the boy says Jiwoo wants to destroy everything. Juho tells the instructor she cannot understand the pink-eyed girl using common sense or logic.
The boy claims Jiwoo is beyond reason, regardless of whether Nameri chooses to believe him.
A rhythmic, scratching sound echoes as Namera's hand trembles at the thought of a disaster.
A wide eye reveals Namera's terror as she imagines the girl's next move against her. A sudden soft thud sounds as Nameri bursts into the room with a look of desperation.
Jiwoo notices the instructor's arrival, sitting calmly at her desk in the empty classroom.
The girl asks if class is starting while surrounded by dozens of faceless pink-eyed shadows.
Nameri stares at her student in sheer terror, her face pale and covered in cold sweat.
Jiwoo smiles brightly and cheers about being excited to start their upcoming lesson together today.
The instructor covers her eyes in despair, wondering how she can possibly handle this situation.
Nameri watches through her fingers, terrified that the academy is truly on the verge of closing.
Juho stands with his arms crossed, silently observing the instructor's complete and utter mental breakdown.
Juho says there is one way, while Nameri frantically asks if she needs to offer bribes.
The boy looks at her calmly and states that the solution to her problem is simple.
Juho explains she must make Jiwoo want to keep attending the academy through her own effort.
The boy's voice continues, stating she needs to provide the absolute best lessons possible for her. Juho notes that changing the girl's mind is the only way to save the struggling academy.
Nameri apologizes for being late as she stares at the smiling, pink-eyed girl sitting before her.
A soft, quick gulp sounds as the instructor stares at her student in total, paralyzing fear.
Nameri wonders how she is supposed to persuade a terrifying person like Jiwoo with a lesson. The instructor worries if her teaching style is even capable of reaching someone so incredibly dangerous.
A rhythmic, scratching sound echoes as Namiris' hand shakes while holding a small piece of chalk.
Nameri recalls Juho pointing out her flaws, making her doubt her ability to deliver a perfect lesson.
The instructor stares wide-eyed at the blackboard, feeling like the entire situation is completely and utterly hopeless. The scene shifts to the exterior of a massive city under a bright and sunny sky.
Nameri visualizes her life in the city, surrounded by her family, assistants, and her language business.
A screen on a skyscraper displays a vision of Namiris' dream of finding a happy marriage.
A sudden heavy crash sounds as a giant shadow begins to loom over her perfect city.
Giant Jiwoo sits atop the buildings, looking down at the tiny city with a predatory smile.
Narration notes that the girl could destroy Namiris' entire life with just a single wave.
A sudden, sharp swipe sounds as the girl's giant hand sweeps across the entire city skyline.
Nameri screams in terror as her assistants are swallowed by darkness and her city begins crumbling. The instructor's eye widens in horror as she realizes her entire life is about to disappear.
Nameri sobs hysterically at her podium, asking why she is being punished for things she didn't do.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Juho and Jiwoo watch their instructor have a public breakdown.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Nameri collapses while her muscular assistants rush to her side.
Byungchul shouts that class is canceled due to illness and promises everyone a full refund today. Jiwoo expresses concern for her teacher while Juho watches the chaotic scene unfold in the classroom. Juho notes that the instructor simply could not handle the intense pressure of the girl's presence.
A rhythmic, sliding sound echoes as Juho stands up to leave the now empty and silent classroom.
Jiwoo tells the boy it is time to go as she prepares to head out.
A character profile of Yo Jiwoo shows her leaning forward with her signature blank, happy expression.
Juho and Jiwoo walk together along the quiet street, heading away from the busy academy building.
Jiwoo asks what they should eat for their lunch while Juho looks at her in surprise.
The girl suggests street food for lunch because they are having a nice dinner later today.
Jiwoo excitedly checks her phone to find the best food spots while Juho agrees with her. Juho watches the girl with a worried expression as she continues to browse through her phone.
A close-up reveals Juho's exhausted eye as he remains silent while walking beside the energetic girl.
Jiwoo blushes and points at her phone screen, showing the boy something she found very interesting.
Juho and Jiwoo walk together down a quiet street, moving away from the busy academy area.
Jiwoo stops and looks to the side with a look of sudden interest and surprise.
The girl blushes deeply as she excitedly checks something on her mobile phone screen.
Jiwoo begins frantically searching through her backpack while the boy watches her with confusion. Juho stares forward with a blank expression, seemingly lost in his own private thoughts. Jiwoo opens a red snack bag while Juho reflects on the deceptive nature of his emotions.
The boy looks increasingly nervous, a bead of sweat forming as he watches the girl. A soft, quick chirp sounds as a hand drops crumbs for a small, hungry bird.
Jiwoo crouches on the sidewalk using the snacks to feed a group of gathering birds.
The girl smiles brightly, now surrounded by several birds and a few curious stray cats. Jiwoo is completely covered in animals, looking overjoyed as she interacts with her new friends. Jiwoo beams with happiness while a bird perches on her finger and her long hair.
Juho blushes slightly while observing the girl's genuine and innocent display of kindness and joy.
The girl looks back toward the boy, her expression softening while she remains with the animals.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Jiwoo stands up, startling the animals into flying away.
A rhythmic, quick tap sounds as Juho's white shoe makes a sharp and sudden movement.
Juho's eye widens in shock behind his glasses as he reacts to a sudden realization.
Jiwoo points an accusing finger at Juho, excitedly claiming that she caught him laughing just now.
The girl gives 2 thumbs up, asking if he laughed and noting his rare expression.
Jiwoo encourages Juho to smile more, admitting her curiosity about what finally made him laugh.
Jiwoo flashes a mischievous grin, teasingly asking if her beauty was the cause of his laughter.
Juho covers his face in embarrassment, his cheeks turning a deep shade of bright red.
The girl looks at him with a blank, wide-eyed expression, her finger resting on her chin.
A close-up reveals Jiwoo's face flushed with a heavy blush, her eyes wide with sudden shock.
Narration notes the thin line between love and fear as the two stand together in silence.
A rhythmic, heavy thud sounds as Juho walks alone, staring down at the ground ahead.
The boy continues walking while blushing, his brow furrowed in a moment of internal conflict.
Jiwoo walks at a distance, looking down as she processes her own feelings and embarrassment.
The girl's face remains flushed with a deep blush as she looks away from the boy.
Juho remains silent, his gaze fixed downward as the tension between them continues to grow.
The two walk on opposite sides of the wide street, maintaining a noticeable and awkward distance.
Jiwoo remembers the peaceful moment of feeding the birds and cats from just a few minutes ago.
Juho watches the girl from afar, reflecting on how his behavior toward her has recently changed.
The boy wonders why the girl is keeping such a large distance from him right now.
Narration notes that the girl usually follows closer whenever he tries to pull away from her. Juho worries that the girl has noticed his awkwardness as he looks at her in surprise. A soft, quick click sounds as Juho adjusts his glasses while worrying about being too obvious.
Jiwoo looks back at the boy, her eyes wide as he decides to change his approach.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Juho begins walking faster to close the gap between them.
Juho looks back at the girl, asking what is wrong and why they are walking so far apart.
Juho tells her they should walk together like they usually do while trying to act normal. Jiwoo covers her face and tells him that he is being weird today, and this isn't usual.
Juho defensively insists he is just being his usual self, questioning how much more normal he could be.
The boy stares forward with a flat, skeptical expression, unconvinced by his own attempt at normalcy.
Juho notes she is wearing her usual clothes, unlike the different outfit she wore during their weekend.
Jiwoo gasps in realization, her face turning a bright shade of red at the boy's observation.
The girl stammers about their previous time alone together, becoming overwhelmed with a sudden, intense embarrassment.
Juho looks back at her with a blank stare, waiting for her to finish her thought.
The two walk closer together again, though a heavy and awkward silence still remains between them.
Jiwoo lets out a pained sound as she struggles to manage her skyrocketing levels of stress. Jiwoo shouts frantically, her face flushed red as she demands to know why he's acting differently.
Juho shouts back in confusion, insisting that he truly does not see what is so different. The boy gets defensive, claiming that she is the one who is acting completely out of character.
The girl's pink eye narrows with intense focus as she stares down her companion.
A sudden, sharp swipe sounds as Jiwoo's hand aggressively seizes the boy's shirt collar.
A rhythmic, quick tap sounds as she shifts her footing to pin him in place.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as she slams him back to get his full attention.
The two stand inches apart in the dimly lit alleyway, both faces glowing with intense blushes. Jiwoo glares upward with a dark, silent intensity, her red eyes burning with unexpressed frustration.
Juho's eyes widen in total shock as he is cornered by the girl's sudden, aggressive proximity.
A soft, quick slide sounds as he adjusts his glasses while struggling to process the situation.
Jiwoo shouts that his lack of fear is proof of how weirdly different he is being today.
The girl continues her outburst, demanding to know how he can claim that nothing has changed.
A rhythmic, quick tap sounds as her white shoes turn away from him on the pavement. Jiwoo looks down with a pained expression, admitting that this situation is no longer fun for her. A sudden, sharp swipe sounds as she turns her back and announces she is going home.
Juho reaches out frantically, asking about their plans for food and their upcoming study session together.
The girl keeps her back turned, stating that she shouldn't be around him any longer today.
Jiwoo offers a final, quiet farewell as she prepares to walk away from the boy.
Juho stands alone and motionless in the dark corridor, staring after her in complete disbelief.
The boy's face is obscured by a dark shadow as a sense of deep foreboding settles in.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as his pupil dilates during a moment of profound realization.
He visualizes a memory of a woman reading a book to him while they sit together. The woman in the hospital gown smiles warmly while continuing to read the story aloud. A young, bespectacled boy looks up at her with an expression of pure joy and wonder.
Nam Juho stares back at the woman in the memory while his name appears overhead.
A man in a lab coat stands in a doorway, sternly telling the boy to leave. The authority figure's face is cast in deep shadow, his glasses reflecting a cold, detached light.
Young Ju-ho looks back with a saddened expression as his time with the woman is ended. The boy walks away from the room, certain of the feelings he just experienced inside. A girl with long black hair sits alone in a cold, sterile room, looking completely isolated. Ji-woo continues walking down the narrow alleyway, moving further away from the boy she left.
Ju-ho realizes that the feeling of her leaving is exactly like the pain from his past.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the boy opens his mouth to shout after the girl.
Ju-ho sprints down the alley, pleading with her to wait as he refuses to lose her.
A sudden, sharp swipe sounds as a hand firmly grips the fabric of a gray sleeve. Ju-ho looks back in surprise, his eyes wide as someone stops him in his tracks.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds during a close-up of an eye reacting to a new presence.
A girl with long, wavy blonde hair and red eyes stands before him with a frown. The blonde girl blushes and looks away, her expression a mix of annoyance and sudden embarrassment.
A rhythmic, quick tap sounds as several people walk past one another in a busy corridor.
A man with red hair and a gold chain sits hunched over in a public space.
A sudden quick tap sounds as the red-haired man looks up with a grin.
The man flashes a wide, toothy smile while mockingly commenting on the situation before him. Hong Taeyong stands up and reminds his companion about all the help he provided recently.
A small girl with a tall bun and glasses stands awkwardly in an oversized dark parka.
The girl points to her head, insisting that her hair bun is much neater than usual.
The red-haired man laughs at her while suggesting they finally go and try on some clothes. Taeyang leans in close, mentioning that she should try out all sorts of different styles today.
Police officers approach the red-haired man, requesting his ID following a report of indecent assault.
Min Jarim crouches while making a heart, looking slightly annoyed despite the romantic gesture.
Narration introduces Min Jarim as a girl who is completely clueless when it comes to romance. Jarim realizes that Hong Taeyong is the only person she can turn to for help.
The scene shifts to the bustling exterior of Dongdaemun Market on a bright, cloudy day.
Jarim walks through the dense market crowds, feeling overwhelmed by the sheer number of people.
The blonde girl asks Taeyang why they are at a market instead of a department store.
Taeyong explains that finding a style that truly suits her is better than buying expensive clothes. Jarim acknowledges his logic, realizing that his approach to fashion actually makes a lot of sense. Taeyong laughs while boasting about his expertise in online style communities and various fashion jobs.
The red-haired man argues that putting effort into one's appearance is essential for attracting someone.
Jarim tells Taeyong to stop lecturing her after he compares her lack of style to the feat.
Taeyong promises to get her perfectly equipped to win what he describes as a war.
Jarim is offended as Taeyong visualizes her current outfit as the rags of a beggar.
Taeyong ponders how to style Jarim to look more mature while she overhears his blunt assessment.
A sudden, sharp swipe sounds as Taeyang grins, confident he has found the perfect look.
Jarim tries on a black turtleneck and jeans, determined to win despite her intense embarrassment.
Jarim rejects a cute tennis skirt outfit, choosing the more mature first option instead. Walking with bags, Taeyong laments her choice, while Jarim admits the second style is too advanced. Taeyong declares her armor complete, visualizing her as a fully geared knight ready for war.
Jarim asks about her weapon, and Taeyong explains that her appearance will be enhanced by makeup.
Taeyang tilts Jarim's head back, asking if she has any experience applying makeup to herself. Jarim admits she is clueless about makeup, which Taeyong expected given her focus on studies.
A sudden, sharp snap sounds as Taeyong produces a makeup bag, citing his past professional experience.
Taeyong notes the good news is that Jarim is naturally stunning regardless of any upgrades. He compares her potential to a legendary SSS-class weapon that barely requires any major upgrades. Taeyong laments that such a powerful weapon has been left gathering dust in an armory.
The red-haired man claims that Jarim could easily outshine a celebrity with just a little effort.
Jarim offers her sincere thanks to Taeyong, feeling relieved that she reached out for his help. Taeyong smiles to himself, satisfied with the progress they are making on her transformation.
The red-haired man pauses the walk, asking Jarim if he can ask her a personal question. Taeyong notes how she used to be completely consumed by her studies and exam preparation. Taeyong asks if she likes Nam Ju-ho enough to justify taking time away from her books. Jarim becomes extremely flustered and denies her feelings for Ju-ho with a bright red blush.
A sudden, sharp swipe sounds as Jarim grabs Taeyong's shirt, angrily denying his teasing accusations.
Jarim insists her actions are just a desperate measure to keep her rival from distracting her.
Taeyong grins and agrees to help her win regardless of her excuses for the makeover. Taeyang warns that equipment is useless if she lacks the conviction to swing her sword.
Jarim is visualized as a knight on a cobblestone path, looking determined yet slightly nervous.
Narration emphasizes that without heart, she won't be able to cut through anything in her path. A dark-haired witch appears in the shadows, representing the obstacles or competition Jarim must face. Jarim stares forward with a focused expression, pondering Taeyong's cryptic advice about using her heart. The girl expresses confusion, questioning what exactly she is supposed to be cutting with her heart. Taeyong remains silent, offering only a wide, toothy grin as he looks back at the girl.
A sudden, sharp tap sounds as Taeyong reveals his phone, planning to start practice immediately.
Taeyong uses an Instagram schedule to determine exactly where their targets will be finishing up soon.
Taeyang leans in close and instructs Jarim to go and pick a fight with her rival. Nam Juho looks up in shock as a beautifully transformed Jarim walks toward him on the street.
Juho stammers while asking if her last name is Min, failing to recognize her at first.
Jarim stands before Juho with long wavy hair, addressing him politely while confirming her identity.
The blonde girl blushes deeply while formally introducing herself as Min Jarim to the stunned boy.
A soft, quiet gasp sounds as Juho struggles to process the blonde girl's sudden transformation. The boy watches with a heavy heart as Jiwoo's small silhouette disappears into the bright city light.
Jarim asks if he's actually planning to go after her as she watches him hesitate in the street. A close-up reveals the girl's face completely flushed.
Jarim shouts a firm rejection while grabbing the boy's sleeve to prevent him from leaving her behind.
The blonde girl commands him to stay with her from now on while her red eyes burn intensely. Juho looks back in silence, his eyes wide as he registers the firm grip on his jacket sleeve.
A red-haired man hides behind a utility box while peeking at the two teenagers in the distance. Taeyong whispers Jarim's name to himself while watching her bold move with a look of extreme anticipation.
Taeyong's voice echoes in her mind, reminding her to follow his specific method to capture the boy's heart. The red-haired man reveals a sinister, wide grin while focusing on the objective of capturing Juho's heart.
Jarim visualizes herself and her rival as maids in a competition for the boy's attention and affection.
A sudden, sharp breath sounds as Taeyang grins while brandishing makeup tools for the next phase of training.
Jarim sits alone on a park bench, her face buried in a blush as she reflects on things. Taeyong claims that her appearance now makes Jiwoo look plain in comparison during their secret styling session. The blonde girl remains silent, her face glowing red as she processes the man's bold and flattering claims. Taeyong asks why she looks so gloomy and wonders if the mature outfit doesn't fit her properly. Jarim looks away while admitting that she is simply unsure if the new style truly suits her persona.
The girl questions if looks matter, noting that Juho would have already loved Juho if appearance were everything.
Jarim fidgets with her hands while lamenting that she lacks the sociability and familiarity her rival already shares.
The girl panics as she realizes her chances are slim and the competition might already be over.
Jarim cries out in despair, asking what she's doing before declaring her desperate desire to go home. Taeyong stares at her with a blank, unreadable expression as she breaks down in front of him.
A soft, quiet gasp sounds as Jarim continues to lament her situation while sitting on the bench.
Taeyong crosses his arms and confidently insists that she still has a fair chance at winning Juho over. The man grins, suggesting something is off since the boy hasn't fallen for a girl as beautiful as Jiwoo.
The blonde girl looks up at him with a mix of shock and confusion as he continues theorizing.
Taeyong suggests that if Juho is pushing Jiwoo away, it creates a perfect gap for Jarim to fill. The man claims Jarim might actually be in the most favorable position depending on the boy's true reasons. Taeyong points a finger upward while explaining the concept of turning a crisis into a strategic opportunity.
A sudden, sharp breath sounds as the man's narrows and he announces the start of makeover training.
Jarim looks determined, visualized with a power that could effortlessly make any man fall for her charms. The scene shifts back to the modern cityscape as the sun shines brightly over the tall buildings.
Juho and Jarim walk together down the sidewalk, the girl still blushing intensely in her new mature outfit.
Juho asks how she found him, and Jarim stammers a lie about just happening to walk by him. The boy admits he almost didn't recognize her because she looks completely different in her new stylish clothes.
Jarim covers her face while complaining about the intense stares they are getting from everyone on the street.
Juho looks serious while advising her not to walk around the academy dressed in such a mature way.
He explains that looking like that will only serve as a major distraction from her important studies.
Juho warns that other boys will start clinging to her if she continues to wear such an outfit.
Jarim blushes deeply while wondering to herself if the boy is actually worried about her well-being. The girl's face burns as she admits her head is getting hot and she can't think straight.
A close-up shows the girl's trembling hand as she struggles to maintain her composure during the walk.
The girl's hand suddenly clenches into a tight, determined fist as she prepares to take her first step. Jarim glares forward with red eyes and a blushing face, determined to take the first successful step.
Juho's eye widens behind his glasses as he senses the sudden change in the girl's intense demeanor.
An extreme close-up of a red eye marks the beginning of the first step of her plan. Juho looks back at the girl while she closely observes his every move with a silent intensity. The boy tells her to speak outright if she has complaints about his recent cold behavior toward her.
Jarim's face burns bright red as she realizes her reaction was not what she expected.
Her attention is caught by a sudden, sharp clap sounding as hands meet in the air.
The blonde girl asks if he read her mind, praising his impressive speed and quick intuition.
Jarim claps excitedly while calling him a role model and praising his intelligence with a blush.
Jarim laughs nervously while clapping as the black-haired boy watches her with a deeply confused expression.
Juho adjusts his glasses, internally acknowledging that he is incredibly weak to receiving direct, blunt compliments.
The blonde girl struggles to maintain her composure while her face remains a bright, glowing red. Jareem focuses on the specific point that Taeyong emphasized most during her recent makeover training sessions.
The black-haired boy looks away, feeling a strange and awkward atmosphere developing between him and Jareem.
Juho stops walking and turns back to face the girl standing still on the quiet sidewalk.
The blonde girl remains silent, her face glowing red as she stands alone in the street.
A close-up focuses on her trembling eye, highlighting the intense pressure she currently feels while standing.
Jerem watches from a distance as the boy turns his back to continue walking away alone.
A high-angle view shows a black-haired girl sitting alone on a wooden bench in the park.
Jiwoo looks down with a deep blush, sitting in a fetal position on the park bench.
A man's voice greets her as he approaches the bench from the shadows of the park.
The man in a black suit and sunglasses formally introduces himself while asking for Jiwoo's identity.
Jiwoo looks up in shock, her eyes wide as she registers the presence of the strange man.
A sudden, sharp slide sounds as the girl pulls a sword from her backpack in defense.
The man in the suit smiles widely while presenting his official business card to the girl. A close-up reveals the business card, identifying him as Ma In-bom from a prep institute.
The suited man grins sinisterly while asking the black-haired girl for a brief moment of conversation.
Jerem stands alone on the sidewalk, her body tensed as she feels her plan slowly failing.
The blonde girl's red eye trembles with anxiety while she tries to find the courage to speak.
Juho wonders why everyone is acting strange, specifically comparing the blonde girl's behavior to Jiwoo's actions.
The boy notes her lack of bags and assumes she didn't come for her usual studies.
Juho announces his departure, telling the girl he will see her again at school on Monday.
Jerem's eye widens in pure panic as she watches her target prepare to leave her behind.
The blonde girl calls out to the boy, desperately trying to stop him from walking away now. A sudden sharp trip sounds as her shoe catches on the pavement while she moves forward. Jareem loses her balance and begins to fall face first toward the hard pavement of the street.
The girl's eyes bulge in terror as the ground rushes up to meet her falling form.
A sudden sharp grasp sounds as Juho lunges forward and catches the girl mid-fall with strength. The boy holds her firmly while Jareem reacts with a look of total shock and intense embarrassment.
A close-up shows the boy's hand gripping her arm as she stares up at him in silence.
Taeyong peeks from behind a building, his eyes glowing as he watches the scene unfold perfectly.
The red-haired man whispers in excitement, noting they have reached the third stage of his plan.
Jerem stammers a request for the boy to let go of her hand, feeling extremely flustered.
Juho shouts in a panic, frantically asking the blonde girl if she's hurt or feeling okay. A sudden, sharp jump sounds as Jareem pulls away while Juho warns her to stalemate.
Juho explains that he never lets his mind wander after nearly being hit by a truck once. Jareem looks surprised as the boy mentions that Jiwoo was the one who saved his life then.
The girl looks serious, announcing that she actually has something specific she needs to talk about now.
A sudden, sharp step sounds as the blonde girl plants her foot firmly on the ground again.
Jerem grabs the boy's jacket, staring up at him with a look of intense, blushing determination.
The girl commands him to spend the day with her, claiming that she is simply bored alone.
Juho stares back with a stunned and confused expression, failing to understand her sudden, bold request.
The boy questions the reasoning behind her demand while she continues to watch him with silent intensity.
Juho recalls a past encounter, wondering if she intends to blackmail him with an old photo again.
The blonde girl reveals her phone while Juho assumes she is intentionally trying to hinder his progress.
A sudden sharp press sounds as Jareem finally deletes the lingering photo of her rival. Juho stares in stunned silence, his eye widening as he processes the girl's bold declaration.
Jerem presents the newly deleted photo as a gift and payment for him spending the day with her.
The blonde girl lectures him on study burnout, advising him to take a rest day with her instead. Jareem leans in aggressively while pressuring the boy to join her for the rest of the day.
Juho remains speechless, his face sweating as he struggles to find a way to refuse her offer.
Jareem stares up with a blushing, intense gaze, refusing to let the boy walk away from her.
A street performer sings romantic lyrics about fluttering hearts, heightening the awkward tension between the two.
Juho questions if this busking performance is actually Jareem's taste while the romantic song continues loudly.
Jareem praises the romantic atmosphere while the boy bluntly complains about the overwhelming number of people.
A soft, quiet murmur sounds as Jareem scolds him for grumbling and offers him a choice next.
Juho recalls that Jiwoo also enjoyed watching street performances to relieve her intense school-related stress.
Jareem glares with narrowed eyes as the boy jokingly wonders if her rival is lurking nearby.
The blonde girl trembles with rage as Juho continues to bring up her rival's name.
Jerem's red eye trembles with a mix of fury and insecurity during their supposedly romantic date.
The two sit in silence among the crowd, a cold distance growing between them on the steps.
A famous idol named AIU makes a surprise appearance on stage to cheer for the students.
Juho loses his typical composure, shouting in pure disbelief at the sight of the famous idol.
A sudden sharp roar sounds as the crowd surges forward to catch a glimpse of the star.
Juho frantically tries to record the performance while Jareem gets caught in the middle of the crowd.
Jareem stands paralyzed by the sudden chaos, her face pale as she is pushed by the strangers.
A sudden, sharp chuckle sounds as Jareem laughs at the absurdity of her failing plans.
The girl looks down in defeat, feeling completely invisible and forgotten in the middle of the crowd.
Jarim's red eye glimmers with sadness as she prepares to walk away alone and unnoticed.
A sudden, sharp grasp sounds as Juho's hand firmly clenches onto the girl's sleeve to stop her.
Juho shouts over the noise, demanding that she stay right next to him for her own safety.
The boy admits his genuine panic when she vanished from his sight for a brief moment.
A sudden, sharp clasp sounds as Yiho's hand locks firmly with Jarim's trembling fingers.
He commands her to hold on tight and stay close as he leads her through the crowd.
The girl's face burns as she reflects on the romantic advice Taeyong previously taught her.
A sudden, sharp surge sounds as the crowd continues to roar for the idol on stage.
A sudden, sharp thud sounds as the two are shoved together by the force of the crowd. Juho wraps his arms around the girl, shielding her from the chaotic movements of the surrounding people.
A sudden sharp click sounds as the boy grumbles about missing out on a fan experience.
He surprisingly thanks her, admitting that the day turned out to be quite fulfilling after all. The boy asks if she is finished while suggesting their outing has reached its natural conclusion.
Juho brings the mood down by reminding her of her poor grades and the upcoming exams.
The blonde girl cries out in frustration, her face turning a bright, glowing red from his insult.
A sudden, sharp ring sounds as the boy's attention is pulled toward the vibration in his pocket.
Juho looks at the screen in confusion, seeing an incoming call from a woman named Miss Mary.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as the woman on the other end whispers his name with urgency.
The sick woman asks if he is with Jiwoo, desperate to relay an important message to her. Juho explains they aren't together, causing the woman to ask for her own daughter's phone number. The boy suddenly realizes he lacks any way to directly contact the girl he was searching for.
Miss Mary begs him to message Jiwoo and tell her to visit the academy tomorrow immediately.
Juho stares forward with a blank look as he weighs the gravity of the woman's desperate request.
He cold-bloodedly attempts to negotiate for more study materials in exchange for helping with the emergency.
A sudden, sharp twitch sounds as the sick woman reacts with disbelief at the boy's relentless focus.
She vents her frustration at his selfish and overbearing attitude while her face burns with anger. After securing the deal, Juho agrees to pass on the message as Jarim watches him with confusion.
Juho checks his phone and asks Jarim to remind him of their current topic of conversation.
Jarim looks flustered and quickly explains they were deciding what to do next during their time together.
A sudden, sharp fidget sounds as the blonde girl stands nervously while waiting for his response.
Jarim laughs and declines further plans, claiming she must head home to focus on her studies.
Juho watches her with a suspicious gaze, clearly unconvinced by her sudden urge to study alone.
The girl reflects internally on her need to be content with the progress she made today.
A flashback shows Jarim standing alone in a school hallway, remembering the consequences of her past greed.
A sudden, sharp crumple sounds as the girl remembers the deep pain of failing her academic goals.
Jarim looks back at the boy, feeling she has finally earned a small place in his heart. She looks down in disappointment, wishing she had more space in his life than she does now.
Juho stops and calls out the blonde girl's full name as she prepares to walk away.
The boy surprisingly invites her to join him at the academy tomorrow so they can study. Jarim reacts with total shock, her face turning a bright, glowing red at his unexpected request.
Juho waits patiently for an answer, appearing completely indifferent to the girl's massive internal panic.
A close-up highlights the blonde girl's wide, blushing eyes as she processes his first personal invitation.
A sudden, sharp breath sounds as the boy reacts to the awkward silence with a nervous look.
Jarim stands frozen while reflecting on the rare opportunity she has to stay by his side.
The girl aggressively presents her phone, demanding that the boy provide his contact number immediately. Jarim looks away shyly while declaring that she will be the one to call him tomorrow.
Juho agrees to the plan with a confused look, holding his phone while they finalize their meeting. The boy continues walking away into the distance while Jarim watches him from the street.
Jarim reflects on her original failed plan to confess her romantic feelings to the boy today.
Taeyong approaches from behind, noting that things rarely go according to plan in matters of love.
The red-haired man watches as Jarim realizes the vast emotional gap that still exists between them.
Jarim vents her frustration, admitting that building a relationship is far more difficult than she imagined.
A sudden sharp tap sounds as Taeyong offers a candied apple to cheer up the girl.
The red-haired man praises Jarim's hard work while casually enjoying a sweet treat for himself.
A sudden, sharp crunch sounds as Jarim aggressively bites the candied apple to release her anger.
Jarim declares her renewed resolve, refusing to give up on her target until the very end. The two walk away together while Jarim vows to eventually win the boy's heart for herself.
Juho checks his phone in the street, growing frustrated by Jiwoo's continued silence and lack of reply. He decides to put his phone away and focus on his own studies for the day.
The scene shifts to the quiet exterior of a cafe standing empty on the sidewalk.
A sudden, sharp chime sounds as Jiwoo exits the cafe, followed by the man in the suit. The suited man grins while noting their discussion ended on a very positive note for them both.
Ma In-bom waves goodbye, assuming their agreed-upon plan will proceed without any further complications.
Jiwoo stands alone with a dazed expression, appearing overwhelmed by her conversation with the strange man.
The black-haired girl stares blankly at her phone, remaining silent as she processes her current situation.
A sudden, sharp buzz sounds as Juho's phone vibrates in his pocket while he walks alone.
The boy looks at his screen with a dark, weary expression, noting that she is finally replying.
A sudden, sharp rattle sounds as Juho's hand trembles while he grips his phone with intense emotion.
A sudden, sharp thud sounds as Juho collapses onto the pavement in a moment of utter despair.
A diagram of portraits explains the long-standing and strict family traditions of the Nam family members.
An elderly man in a suit sits formally while explaining the evolution of their family meetings.
Juho enters a room looking miserable, noting how these summons always put the entire family on edge.
A close-up shows the elderly man's tightly folded hands as he scolds Juho for his lateness.
The patriarch stares down at Juho from the head of a table filled with silent relatives.
Juho glares back with an intense expression, feeling isolated while facing his judgmental family members alone.
The gray-haired elder commands the boy to sit down and address the family matters immediately.